All right. Hello, Race Brain Podcast. My name is Rich Ryan, joined by Jack Bauer and Bracken Crocker. Today, we have a light week in terms of what is going on in our world with hybrid racing and OCR. But we've been watching a lot of Olympics, so we're going to take some of our takeaways from what we've seen at the Olympics and how we can relate that to our sport. We're also going to do a little bit of follow up. Jack had some homework that when I say homework to Jack, he's like, I'm on it. Thank
I
you.
got to do it.
Please.
Don't talk my
And
score.
then we're probably going to do a little bit of track talk at the back end. So we'll give a little disclaimer, a little spoiler warning. Track's not your thing. Then you can go listen to whatever else you want to listen to. But first, Bracken, if there was a Nathan's hot dog style eating contest for granola bars, how many you eating?
How much water do I get?
Yeah, that's the big. You're gonna dip them in there
You
like
caught me
Joey
there. I went to
Chestnut?
reach for a gulp. I just finished up intervals right before this, and I needed something because this goes long every time. But
A dry
it's the
granola
dryness.
bar swallow. That's not what you want.
That's how you ruin your
A
esophagus.
little abrasive. Yeah.
Yeah, two of them were dry. One was more of that mushy style that I can take down. But
Like
this
30?
last one, what do we have here?
10 minutes?
10 minutes, so one every 20 seconds. start
Sweet
to
and
finish.
salty nut
Sweet
is what
and
this is
salty.
called.
And is that from Aldi brand?
That's Aldi.
Better
Yeah.
believe it.
All these salty nuts.
So yeah, you can get water or milk, one glass, 30?
That's impressive, Bracken.
In how long?
Here, hold it
10
up
minutes,
like the
right?
wrapper. Is it like credit card size? Okay. Yeah,
Granola
not
bar size.
It looks like a
Yeah.
chewy bar, but it's probably 50% bigger. We're talking 150 cal. How
okay,
many minutes?
not-
10 minutes?
10
10
minutes.
10
I'm
to
going like
15.
16 for him.
Okay. Jack sets at 16.
My jaw's tired after 3 after an interval workout.
That-
That was
that's-
bearing down.
Mhm.
Some
Not an
endurance.
endurance athlete like Joey Chestnut.
Have you seen that? There's like a product that was sold to help define your jaw. It's just like basically a hollowed out rubber ball that you just chew on.
Serious?
Yeah. So BK would need to be put in some serious intervals. He would do some
Yeah,
power,
I mean,
some endurance.
Ball gag intervals. Sign me up.
That's put that on your Instagram. It's
What are
already
you doing? I'm training.
training, man.
Look at that jawline.
Granola bar contest. All right. So Jack had some homework. Are you
I
ready
did.
to share your homework? Have it
We're just
be-
going right into it.
share with the class.
Yeah.
We got
Do you wanna-
messages. Did you guys get messages? Comments?
No.
I don't know.
Oh, I got
I got a
one
few.
saying like I'm ready to bring out the popcorn for this one because it's gonna make some people mad potentially.
Hey, we're just keeping it real out here. That's all we're doing.
Yeah.
Also,
exactly.
before we dive in, I went on an OCR podcast, Accountability Corner, over in the UK.
Nice.
That's Chris Shipley and 2 of his buddies.
Yep.
And so they're just, it's all it is about is trying to grow passion for OCR in Europe, specifically the UK. So
Through
it's only
training or
OCR.
through media stuff? Like how so?
Well, they're 3 racers, 2 coach, I believe, but they're just like trying to grow it in the UK. So through their podcast, through getting information out, but it's just an OCR podcast. And so I asked them. Oh, we got a bit of granola bar issue
Do
here.
I see the
Uh-oh.
abrasive swallow?
Not enough
There's no
milk.
water.
Get him one mason jar of water for this contest.
One of those salty nuts lodged in my esophagus.
I'm sure it
Tale
is.
as old as time.
Yep.
And they commented that they listened to Race Brain Running Public. They didn't say anything about RMR, 'cause it sucks. But so I asked them at the end. I said, "What's your honest take on our takes when we talk OCR that's not in North America?" They're like, you do a good job with the information you have, but you just miss out on so many people over here. Like you hit a
Mm.
lot of the names that you know, but there's just so many people who are really, really good and they don't get talked about a lot. They specifically said Jack sucks at it. And I
Oh, okay.
agree.
Yeah. Damn.
Yeah.
Totally.
But
I got to brush up on my European knowledge. Yeah.
but they might be a resource for if we ever want to do like OCR, our prep shows, that we could bring one of them on
Yeah,
and
invite 'em
have
to
a
the
little bit
draft.
of inside information.
We can invite
Is
him to the
that,
draft. I'll take that
Morgan Mac-
weekend off, and then we'll be fine.
Yeah.
You're-
Is Morgan Maxwell also on that?
I think so.
Okay. I know Chris. I know Morgan.
We didn't have our real names up on our Zoom call.
Yeah. I'm sure yours was very appropriate.
I thought it was If I had to guess on the top of my head, and I'm terrible with names, I'd say it was Bracken,
Mm-hmm.
Morgan,
Mm-hmm.
Chris, and Ben. But there's a real good chance I butchered 2 of the 4.
Nice.
Okay.
So make sure you
Which
check
doesn't
out
they're gonna
BK over
listen.
there.
Oh, it looks like Darren Martin is the other one.
Darren.
Check out that show where BK just is disrespectful. It's not talking to anybody. They just lob him questions and he just starts swinging.
I don't know anyone's name.
Don't know anyone's name, but he's firing off takes. Well, it's
My
good to know that our takes
worst
are
aspect
okay.
of teaching. It would take me a semester to learn everyone's real name.
Okay, so I had a professor in college, first like minute of class. This is junior year, never had her before, and she basically made all of us walk to the front of the room. She took a photo of us and said, "If I don't know your name by next class, I'm failing you, and you're wasting your money." And she literally did a quiz.
You
to
get
know every single.
failed.
No, no,
for
no, no.
her screwing up?
She's like I'm failing as a professor because
Oh,
I don't respect
I
you
thought you
enough to
meant you're
know who
getting a
you are.
Oh, she's
And
failing
then,
you as a professor, not failing you as a grade.
no, no, no,
I
no,
was
no,
like,
no,
this is
no.
a weird.
No, it's basically like I'm not going to teach you until I know all your names as a sign of respect. And she nailed all of us. Dr. Kinner is pretty crazy how she.
Well, don't say that. 'Cause
that.
now it sounds like I don't respect Ben.
Yep.
I'm saying what I'm saying, Bracken.
Do you remember
Darren-
anything else
And
from
it's
that
Darren
class?
again, not
Ship.
Ben. But yeah,
Do you remember anything else from that class, Jack, or just that?
I do. That was the hardest class that I ever took. So
All right, nice.
yes, I designed a
let's get-
wastewater treatment plant.
So the homework Jack had was to go through his Bauer objective obstacle-ish system, or no, based.
We'll get there. We'll get there. I've got something.
Ours
prepared.
objective
No, no, no.
obstacle-based system.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Also known as
I don't know. It's just
that's
That's a
what it's
mouthful.
called, Jack.
Yeah.
And then you're going to look through the previous Hyrox races. You did this one time where you kind of calibrated the times based off of the previous times, and it kind of spits out a plus minus for these different courses. So we were talking about the qualification system last week and how times are still associated with the Hyrox qualification system, but you get the average of 2 different times now. So what Jack went ahead and did, I believe this is what you've done, is he went back and re-ranked the Elite 15 board, the top 30 or 40, based off of the Bauer objective obstacle-based system,
Yep.
and now has some things to share.
I have some stuff to share. You
Let me-
pretty
let
much
me
nailed
share.
that. Let me
Hold
just activate it.
now activate the system.
Activate it. Yeah. The screen
warming up.
sharing system.
Now you might have to rename it since there are no obstacles in this.
Oh, Bracken, don't steal my lead. All right. You guys see this
I
right
shall
here?
bury it.
All right. Don't bury it. So originally, this is what Bracken is talking about. He named it, I believe, Bauer's objective obstacle-based system, as you can see.
Mhm.
He named it boobs.
No,
Now-
No, we
you
did
guys
not.
took that and ran.
Yeah.
We took it just happened to end up like that. Well, because I figured you'd like a new name. The new name, since there's no obstacles in this one, I
It's supposed
Look
to
at
be
this
to
some
magic
unhide it,
trick. He's
unhide
trying to
it.
do-
There we go. Bauer's updated top times. So we've got butt. So we
Oh,
got
grow
butt.
up.
I know, got to grow up. But
Dude, Jack's out here throwing around Excel magic for those watching
Yep.
on YouTube.
yeah,
Literally,
magic. Forgot to unhide.
Yeah,
and
he
hide.
has a rabbit in a hat.
Yep.
And a bat.
Exactly. Yeah. So here's the new system right here. It's no longer just Bauer's objective obstacle based system because obstacles are not there. Now we've got the updated
Bauer's
top times
updated top times.
because we're all about those top times in Hyrox.
Excellent
So
segue.
let's see what we've got. If before I spoil this, actually, Rich, how many of the top 15, we'll start with the women. How many of the top 15 women do you think, after adjusting for their course, variances and stuff, who are currently in the top 15 will remain in the top 15?
I would say 11.
Bracken?
I was gonna say 10. 10 to
All right.
10, 12. I'll go with them. 11.
All right.
11
And now
plus mine.
let's do the men before, because I don't want you to have a sense of
6.
Yeah, I would say less. I'll go 7.
Okay, so basically you think 11 of the 15 women are accurately represented by their true times, and then once I adjust them, then they're still going to remain in there. And then on the men's side, 6 to 7 sounds like.
Maybe
Sounds
less.
like.
If we go to the women, there's only
Whoa.
one person, Amy Bevilacqua, who should be in this top
Who
15.
jumps in, and she should be.
Yep. But it got 14 out of 15 correct,
Okay.
Nice.
which is kind of surprising.
So
So
it didn't move
basically,
around too much, even
no.
within the 15, it's all pretty
Yep. So this first column
one
right
or
here
two plus minus.
shows like the real time based on what you ran. For instance, Meg's were Stockholm and Doha. Those are her two fastest time. I know she has the auto qualifier, but I'm just ranking it based on actual times. And then here's your adjusted ratings, where Lauren actually would bump up ahead of her because her performance at Stockholm and Vienna specifically,
Yeah.
is slightly faster. But both of them are still under an hour, for instance. But it got 14 of the 15 correct. Everyone else moved like 1-2 places, maybe.
Biggest swing is 2 of those who stayed. That's awesome.
That yeah, and Rebecca Mason would be the only one who gets bumped out, and she'd only move down to 18th. So it's not that big of a difference. Amy is ranked 20th based off of time, but she would move up to 14th. It's pretty remarkable. I was very surprised her on the women's side. Doesn't mean it's going to stay the same for the men, but if we look at like would last year's Elite 15 make it? So Amy's out, Maria, she would not have make it, even though she raced.
Both raced their way in at the last year's qualifier.
Exactly. Yep. That was what I was going to get at. They were performance head-to-head matchup based as opposed. And then Alina and Jana Levenstedt, they were also in the Elite 15 in Nice.
Jana raced her way, and Alina was basically like she got that weird roll down.
Big roll down, right?
Yeah.
At Cologne or something. Yeah. So anyway, you would have 11 of 15 from last year's major end up racing, but 14 out of 15 time based end up making it. And what I also did is, now if we're looking at course base, like the adjusted times, they're not going to base it off of that, but pretty much, if you're just on the cusp. So Rebecca Nather would need to run 32 seconds faster than her second best time if she wants to move into 15th, for instance, and stuff. So if we do that by the real time, because that's what they're actually going to base it off of, we can see Rebecca only needs an 8-second improvement off her second best, because she did 64:18, 64:27, and her average time is only 4 seconds slower than Rebecca Mason, 2 Rebeccas in a row. So Nather needs to only go 8 seconds faster to move into the spot where Mason is. But I think Rebecca Mason's dealing with a knee injury right now, so she likely
those are
won't end
both
up
times
racing.
that she had in the fall.
Yes.
Yeah.
Stockholm and Chicago. So those, in theory, the later as the season goes, they won't count. So she's going to need to replace those. If you look at,
she's going to have a hard time.
Exactly. If you look at an athlete like Kate Davey, where she did it in Cologne, which was April, and Manchester,
must have been early in the year. I forget.
February, March. Yeah. But she's going to stick around for those 2 times are going to last for a while, as opposed to, let's see who else. Most of them have a 2023 and a 2024. So they're at least safe until the calendar rolls to 2025.
Yeah. Once Stockholm goes, that's going to shake things up.
Yeah. But if we're looking at the real times right here, this column showing how much faster they need to run than their second fastest time currently, I would say like it's a 2-minute improvement, maybe 3 minutes max, kind of the limit where you can really expect someone to go faster. Even that's a big drop off. But if you have like a very favorable course, maybe you can go 3 minutes. So we're looking at 11 women who have a real chance at the moment of moving up if they just really pop a good race.
Well, and if you look at that delta there,
yep,
most of them, that's still a slower time than their fastest.
Correct.
So even though it's a big improvement, it's still, they would just have to match that type of, not even match their fastest.
Yep. Yeah, because if we're looking, for instance, Alina Wilnow, she ran a 63:41, but she only needs a 64:56. That's well in her capabilities of doing that. Jezebel Kramer, 64:14, she needs 64:23. So,
but even like Tara needs to drop 128, but even that 105 is a minute and a half off of her best time
previous. Yep.
So it looks like it's a huge drop, but in reality, she just needs to race again.
Exactly.
How'd that Doha course end up on your? Do you have like the full list of?
Yeah, I'll get to that after. I have a kind of a course comparison if you want, but I could fast forward, I guess. If we look,
you're gonna want to watch this episode on YouTube.
Yes, absolutely.
The first half YouTube heavy.
So Doha, if we're looking Doha, yeah, it actually was a pretty reasonable. Like if it's above 1, that means it's a fast course. So it was like 0.2% fast for the women and 3% fast for the men. If we look at
Nice.
Berlin, for instance, it was 3.5% fast for the men and 1.4 for the women. I did a little updating because previously I didn't separate athletes who ran on a grid versus not grid. So that's why I think previously we were saying like 4 to 5%. Now it's like 3.5% for that, but it's still a big difference. But I'll just go back to the women realistically or real quick. I also did athletes who might be in a different tab. All right, so say there are athletes who have only run one race and who's like on the cusp, basically. So right now the cutoff you can see is 64.19 to get into that 15th place spot. So Christy
This is one
O'Connell,
race since
this is only one qualifying race, and I fast forwarded the calendar relative to Barcelona, or
Okay.
I think that's the first major this year. The one in October.
Amsterdam. Yeah.
Amsterdam. Yeah. So whatever that October 1st major is, I took only race results since then. So yeah, basically Amsterdam on 10:10. So yeah, so I looked at that, and so Christy O'Connell, if she wants to run again, if she runs a 64 flat, she's moving into the top 15. If we have Joanna Whitrick, is she the one from Australia recently?
I'm not sure.
Well, she went 65.07, so she runs a 63.30. She'll get into the top 15. It might like Ida needs a 62.10. Bridget Brown a 60. These are going to be some big performances realistically
That's crazy
to move in, but the athletes who popped a good race so far, they're going to need a really, really good performance in order to make the Elite 15 at this point.
It's going to be really hard. These are for athletes who are not starting out. These are for athletes who have a time.
It's not like
coming
60
in and having no time.
It's not like Christy ran a 61. It's like she ran a good opening race, 64.37. That's basically on the cusp, but she only did it once. And a lot of these other athletes are 65, 66, 67. So most of the athletes who are trying to get in here have tried multiple times. It's going to be really difficult to crack into that Elite 15.
They'll need to do it in the spring. They'll need 2 times.
Yes. Wait till the calendar rolls over so that some of these other fast previous times that we talked about get bumped out.
Well, pretty much everybody's out for the fall ones because there's no chances to race in the fall.
Nope.
Anyway.
Exactly.
It looks negative, but isn't this what a loaded sport is?
Yeah.
Like,
hard to break in.
How long do fighters fight to try to get a top 15 in the world ranking? And most just never get it. Like as much as the system we give it crap, it's good. It's good that it's hard to get in the top 15.
Yep.
And this is the list of the people who are going to have to nail the last chance qualifier. Outside of maybe Christy.
Yeah.
Well, they could still get into a fall major. A winter major, we'll call it.
Yeah, maybe.
If they hit 2 times in the spring, the Chicago and Anaheim.
Mm-hmm. But they're going to need significant improvements for both, and assuming that these people don't put a time up in the meantime.
Yeah. But that's the case. That's the case if you're a newer athlete, you need to race.
Got it.
Every opportunity you have.
And I could see a lot of the athletes who are already in this top 15, unless you're like 13, 14, 15, really on the border. It's like they're probably going to be safe. And do you really want to have a 10-month calendar season? Like I have a feeling some of these athletes probably aren't going to race until October. So some of these other athletes who are just on the cusp, if they can find a race in the next month or 2, they might be able to sneak in.
There are none. There's like 2 races. It's like Toronto, Stuttgart,
October,
and then like Australia. But there's really not
2 of the Australias already happened.
Yeah, there's like not even European. Like this is so silly.
So what becomes mandatory is that if you're on this list at all, you need to have a constant calendar update of how old you're. Basically like a rental reminder. Like this is due in 21 days. You need to be intimately aware of when you raced and stay ahead of that line. Otherwise, just through a clerical error, people are going to wind up outside of the list.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And keep in mind, I did this based on the date of the major. So if it was October 10th, I did it relative all marks October 11th since last year counted, because I don't know if they're doing a 2 week, a 4 week window. You know, we were a little confused on that rule last week. So maybe a couple of these times, if they were set in early October last year, they might not carry over, but the majority of them at least have a mark from 2024 November or later, or 2023 November or later.
All right.
Okay, so that's the
Only
women's
one.
side. Do you
So
want to
I was off
revise
by-
your do you want to revise your guesses or
No.
no? Okay, men's side. 13 out of 15 are right.
Wowza.
Wow. That now there's more movement towards the end. You have some athletes moving down 6, some moving up 4, but it's mostly right again. I couldn't believe this.
Saying right, like your system's right, which
Yes. Yeah.
let's,
Okay. Yeah, I know. There's some
Infallible. I stand with
infallible.
Jack.
Yeah. But realistically, here's the top 15 in first column, and then your adjusted ranking based on saying that Cologne was fast or Berlin, for instance. But realistically, like an athlete such as Yannick, who ran in Berlin, they came over to Anaheim and he was, a few seconds behind Colin, who we know is right on the border also. They're very similar athletes, for instance. So I think that after adjusting for times, yes, some of these courses were fast, but they still ended up getting most of the right people in the top 15 based on true adjusted performances.
Well, this sucks because what do we do now?
I know.
What do we complain about?
I'll scroll down real quick. Just so Rich,
went down one.
you went down.
How did Ator go up that many?
Bordeaux and Frankfurt were his races. So I don't know that his time's off right here. I'd have to search through the results list, but I mean the two of you are within a couple seconds.
These aren't passing the eye test to me. Sorry.
Look at Carlisle, Steinke, and Brenner. That is a tough fall.
Well, yeah, they are. They just have Berlin, basically.
Yeah.
That's just a lot of spots.
Brenner has Karlsruhe and Cologne. No, I'm
okay.
gonna.
So guys, people are moving up. Like I'm looking at Ali, and I'm like, I don't see how he moves up, but it's because those other guys are just above him.
Yes.
Who basically have one time.
Yeah, Ollie did a good time, had a good race in Nice at the age group champs also, but that's his second fastest. Copenhagen was definitely a fast course. You can see which courses keep popping up, like Cologne, Berlin, and Copenhagen. Like those definitely played a role in athletes moving up. But but what it looks like is Tobias and Graham should be in the top 15, which makes sense. Former world champion Graham delivered at world champs. What was he? 6th place, 7th place?
How did Graham move up so many? DC and what else?
DC and Vienna. Yeah. But his real times were 58:12, and then his adjusted were 58 flat. So basically he kind of ran about what we expected, but he still performed when he had the chance to in the majors. But yeah, let's take a look at who's just on or last year's world champs. Toby wouldn't have made it. Graham wouldn't have made it. Colin, you, and Magida would not have.
And of those, like Toby really didn't make it. Colin really didn't make it, and Magida got that big roll down
from Ryland. Yeah. Yep.
So it's working.
Strangely. Yeah, and if we look at who's like the next one out for athlete to have run one race, so you need you actually need to run a 57:53, not adjusted times or anything. Jordan Bryant is the first one out, and he would need to run a 57:01, and pretty much everybody needs to break 57. That is going to be hard to break into.
Crazy.
You're pretty much
Marcus Wallace going to rip a 54:30. I can see it. I don't doubt him.
It's going to be hard to get into this top 15, as we discussed. Rich Ryan, let's see. You need a 57:29 currently.
Light work, son.
It's doable.
I mean, you went 58:16, and some of these times are going to fall off because they're set late,
How does that
like
work with
farther
the
out.
with the with the needs? Like, what are you're just replacing the faster one, or what do you
I'm saying
slower one? I mean,
what's it going to take for your fastest? I'm replacing your slowest.
yeah,
So if
okay.
you take your actual fastest, and then here's what you need in order to at least average or get 1 second faster than this 15th place.
Whew.
This is high level spreadsheet work, Jack.
This is. I didn't make it pretty, but I didn't have a whole lot of
This
time.
is so stupid. This makes it
So
worse. Like how now that people are getting rewarded for previous years,
yes,
like it's just like
yeah.
taking last year's results for this year's playoffs and championships. Who does that? Like, what are we
So
talking about?
after listening and thinking about last episode a little bit, the qualification system, I was definitely against using older results, but they seem adamant that they're like, we're gonna allow last year's results to count towards qualifying this year. I don't, or qualifying for a major. So basically you have 7 of the 15 and men and 5 of the 15 women already taken for any major that they want to show up for. So half the field is done, and we already see how difficult it is to pop a good time to move into this leaderboard. That's ridiculous. So if they're truly set on using like last year's top 5 at Worlds or certain rollover times, I think what they should do, they shouldn't get an automatic spot into a major. But if they're going to allow those people to use something from last year, use their best time from the previous year as their best time, but they still have to have a new time this season in order to count, instead of just using old
Like
results.
one time, right?
Yes,
At least
one
something.
single, like Alex's 54:22 from Stockholm, that you count that towards his best time, but you don't give him an automatic berth. He has to do one more race this year in order to prove that he deserves a spot in the elite fit. Don't just give auto here, you're good for the whole year type of things.
We should just make it all uncomplicated then. Like if we're insistent upon using times, let's make times worth a point. And let's make major results worth a point and world results worth a point. And it doesn't matter how you accumulate your points, but like, let's make it a point then to get in. You need 2 points or 3 points to get into majors.
Yeah.
Let's just make it more complicated, but make it more fair. Like we don't care how you get there, but you've got to get there. And one of your points has to come from this season or something like that, because Rich's point was really solid. No other, what sport do we know of uses last year's results to seed this year's playoffs?
Like, does that even happen for standards? I think standards would be like for the Olympics, right? That
You
could
have like a rolling
potentially, right? Because
1
that's
year.
longer than a year. Is it longer than a year? Or is it just a year?
I think you
To hit a
have
standard.
1 year prior to the Olympic trials in your country in order to hit the mark. And then, because we saw with the steeplechase, for instance, that
The Olympic cycle has its own window.
yeah,
Though.
the cycle. Because there was
And
that
it
guy
may
in the
be different from Worlds.
there
But a
was that guy in
standard's
the
yeah.
US for the steeplechase who didn't end up getting his time, but he had 1 week to hit it before like July 31st or something. Remember
Right.
how he
The
did that
BYU
recently?
kid. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's still like a standard's different than a qualifier.
Yeah.
Because you still, even if you had this standard, you still need to, at least in the U.S., you still need to,
yeah,
race your way. But I guess other countries not.
It really is dumb though. It's like, oh well, we got a bunch of wins this year as our team. Let's count some of those towards next year.
Like imagine
until this certain date.
Imagine if the Lakers, for winning the in-season tournament, got an automatic bid into the playoffs.
I actually like
from
that.
last year.
What really?
From last
yeah.
year.
I was gonna say that's a great argument, Rich.
I like it.
And
why?
Well, from last year, no.
From last year, but that's what it is. It would be from last year.
Yeah. All right. One proposal. You have a magic wand, but you can only wave it once. How do you fix this?
Start the majors all later. Give people like 3 months or so to get 2 marks, maybe 4 months, but only have majors in the late winter, early spring in anticipation for the June or May World Championship. That way, throughout the fall, that's your get your times mark, and then we'll know who's going to be racing in the majors the rest of the year.
Okay.
Condensed season. Yeah, I think that's the right answer based off of what they want to do. But for me, it's just like even just watching the Olympics and it's all heats and qualifiers. Just like take these 40, have them up, like take 15 people and send them to a region.
Yeah.
And that is the heats. How fucking hard is that?
Every single other sport has qualifiers. Like you have round one, and now with the Olympics this year, you have the repechage, and then you have the semifinals and the final. For most races, 5K or 1500 and shorter, you have several rounds, and that's no different than having several heats. If you allow 50 or 100 athletes, it doesn't matter. Just give them the same course layout. It's like, all right, bracket it. If you wanted to sign up for a major and see how your time stacks up, you might not run in that first heat with Rich or Kent or Hunter or any of the other athletes who have, been there, done that before, but you should still have the chance. And if you happen to pop a good time in heat 5, why shouldn't that allow you to race in a major later on? Because basically you beat people head to head by running faster that day. This isn't I'm going to run strategically necessarily. Everyone knows you have the same exact course to finish. It's the same exact equipment. I just ran faster. So that's essentially a head-to-head battle, even if you're in a different heat.
How about you, BK?
That's my fix. Expand the fields.
Expand the field.
Expand the fields. And it's as simple as that. Expand the field and then take only times from this year because everyone's going to get in that needs to be in. Or expand the first major. First major has 50 qualifiers. Second has 40. Third has 20. Fourth has 15. And then that kick people out along the way and you have time to get there. I don't care what it is, but expand the fields. It's not difficult.
The problem with expanding the field, hold on, Jack, is that if you like what we see in college sports, right? Someone's always on the bubble. Someone's always getting screwed. So no matter how big the field is, someone outside is going to get screwed by this silly system.
Which I'm okay with. It gives people stuff to talk about that they can get equally fired up about, but it doesn't change the outcome. Like whether Appalachian State gets in or not, it doesn't change who the final 4 teams are.
Well, then again, that's the argument. It's like, what are we trying to do here? We're trying to assemble the most competitive field, or are we trying to get the best 3 to 4?
And I think this does both. What we need to not have is the Pelayo situation, right? That's what we need to avoid, which is someone who can be top 5 or win, but can't get in. If we expand out, there's going to be someone who deserves to be in, but not someone who can say, I could be a top 5 guy. And I think that's what you expand until you hit. Whatever that bubble is where we have all the best people in, and we still have it exclusive that you're fighting to get in. Right now, we don't have that quite yet. I think we're close. I think it could only take 20 or 25.
I'm fine with world champs having 15. Like you're narrowing it down to who you think is the best of the best. But if you don't allow people throughout the season to have the opportunity, that's where they're screwing up. But the thing that confuses me is they're completely open to having this giant field for last chance qualifiers. You sign up, you want to race. If you're one of the top 3 or 4, however many it's going to be this year, and you make it during that free for all, basically with many heats, you're in the world championship. Yet 4 other times throughout the calendar, they're like, nah, we don't like that method anymore. It's so confusing why they're going to allow that to happen.
There's so many ergs. There's so many stations. You can do it. Why not do it?
Yeah, the season length is definitely an issue, and that's something. This is like what Spartan did for years. They're just not athlete friendly. So I think the easiest fix is shortening the competitive season. But I don't know. I don't know what they would be more likely to do, because I guess we haven't seen how much they value being in the consciousness for 10 months, or changing the way, or actually detaching themselves from this time-based system.
Yeah. What's the downside of adding more spots? They make more money off registration.
Yeah.
The machine's already there.
Those are. We don't have to register for.
Well, maybe not that. But
they probably lose money by getting shirts, swag stuff.
They're selling out every event. They could charge $5 more for this premium.
Still 10 more people coming in and spending money.
Yeah. I mean,
but what's the downside? What does it complicate? What is it? Is there any reason not to?
Not really. I don't see it. I don't see why. I mean, maybe I was going to say it's less media. It's more people to feature media wise, but they're not really doing that for the 15 anyway.
Okay. So what if we go the opposite direction? More majors and cap it. You can only attend 2.
Right. or keep it in the region. What's
6
so hard about?
majors, yeah. You can attend 2 or 3 of the 6. Declare, we
yeah.
fill it with the rest. It does the same thing.
Do you think that's fair though? Allowing you have
You
2
can come
times to
run
prove it.
pro or elite or whatever. You just can't be in the championship. Yeah, sure. Come race.
Okay. What if like 2 days before the race you just have some nagging injury that just like, oh crap, I flew here, now I have to race,
Yeah.
or do you back out and
Sport.
just eat the money?
Yeah, it's sport.
I mean, these are all secondary options to removing time from it, right?
Yeah.
These are not my first options for what you would do with the system, but quick fixes. Allow more people in, clump the majors together, or keep them in a region so you can only go to your region majors.
So one more point. Let's kind of move on a little bit, just so we're not talking in
I-
circles.
I do have one other Hyrox thing for you. Just
Okay.
if we're gonna move from Hyrox, just let me hit it.
I
before.
had
But
one
if-
question that
Yeah,
that,
finish
go
it. Go.
No, go
No,
ahead.
mine's
little
gonna be
different.
a share the screen. So if it's on this topic, go for it.
So with the Hong Kong major, I was on Matt's show yesterday, the weekly show, and he was kind of pressing me on why I think the Hong Kong major is a mistake or just not necessarily fair. And he's like, "What's the matter with those athletes over there? Like, why can't they get the opportunity?" And my point is, and I said, I will bet you anything that you want that people from Asia Pacific will not qualify out of the Hong Kong major. And he was like, "What do you mean? Why not?" I was like, "Who's going to qualify out of there?" So what do you guys think of that?
I think it's very similar to, it's like, oh, this guy's like such a good baseball player. He's totally making the MLB, but it's like from some lower level D2 school in New Hampshire that he's never faced real competition. And it's like, oh, now you face some
Trash
people
state.
from Texas or Florida, and it's like, oh, that's where the real talent is.
Talking about
I think
Plymouth,
it's
dude.
Plymouth.
Plymouth
Yeah,
State?
exactly.
Got you.
But I feel like it's a lot of them haven't seen the competition yet, and we've seen people from Europe, people from North America who've gone up against the big dogs, and we thought their times were a little suspicious, and usually it turns out that they just can't really deliver against the big competition, and there haven't really been too many athletes over there to prove themselves yet.
They're just behind. That's all.
There's not yet, right? It's not like
They're
they're
a couple
not going
years
to be
behind the
good. There's a couple years-
competition.
The-
I
If
the
you allow
exception-
outside regions in, the established athletes are going to take the qualifying spots.
Yes, 2026 would have been the time I would have introduced Hong Kong. Give it a couple more years to, spread and like look at the difference between athlete performances between 2020 and 2022, 2023 that we've seen. People have just elevated their games, taken it so much more seriously. I think that you just need a couple of years for it to grow over there. And absolutely, there's no way that in a region with several billion people that you're not going to find some good athletes. I just think that the 2024 current ability level of a lot of these athletes there, it's just they're not going to perform. You're going to see athletes from different regions take those spots.
And like the way I would lose this bet that I'm just thinking now is Gabe Heck.
Yeah.
Right. That's like he could very well qualify if everybody goes over. I don't even know if he has enough time. If he has times though, like he's not even in the top 40. I don't think right now.
Right.
But like,
So if you're 41st, you don't have a chance of making it.
I mean, that's what they've done in the past. But actually,
Okay.
last year I think they did extend beyond the 30 for DC when we saw Jake Williamson. So
Mhm.
maybe they will move. I mean, they're gonna have to. I would imagine they're gonna have to. For
This
Hong
is the
Kong
one
race.
more than any race they've ever had that if someone gets sick or injured and can't go, they need a last minute, someone who lives there is going to have to take it. No one's
Right.
going to get to Hong Kong on 24 hours notice.
No.
So,
Right.
but I mean, I like putting it there. It maybe wouldn't have been my choice, but I don't think you can wait for the region to establish itself before you give them a major offering.
I don't
I
think they
think
should get as
you-
many as they shouldn't get 3 spots. They shouldn't get the same as a European race or North American race.
Well, I
CrossFit
think
does a-
we've already established that it's not going to go to them. I think you grow the region by putting something desirable there. You bring in the outside best, which is going to happen. People are going to target that because that might be their best chance because people won't travel.
limited competition.
But the region's still going to get their exposure and they're going to grow as a result. But I'm with you. I don't think anyone will qualify out of there. But I think I
Maybe
don't see
Gabe.
any reason why you shouldn't put one there if you want to grow that region.
CrossFit has so many good athletes in North America that they have 2 separate, an East and a West, and then Europe. I think that they have multiple regions, but they'll give like 1 spot to the best guy in Africa, or 3 to the
Asia's
best in
like that
South
too. I think it's
America.
2 or 3. Yeah.
Yeah, they recognize that there's a depth issue, and I'd be okay if Hong Kong gave like the winner, but they're not ready yet, and maybe make the top 4 at a different, like add up to 15 if you're going to do something like that, but shift some of it to where the best athletes are at the moment, which is likely Europe for most of the races, and or maybe like we've seen the U.S. women dominate, but Hyrox currently is more of a European based sport. So I think you should give 1 or 2 extra spots to the European races total and at the expense of Asia.
But we're talking like they're region spots. They're not.
I
They're
know,
not, but like
If they
but
make
it's
them
still
region spots,
it's
then this argument. But it's the same athletes are going to go anywhere they
that's
put
what
a
I mean.
major.
I know, but
but
that's so silly. Like if you have the ability to get there, like you have a leg up on the competition.
let me do a
That's
15-hour flight to get
dumb.
there versus here's a home a home region course, and now all I have to do is get top 5 instead of top 3. It seems a little more doable.
Yeah. Maybe it's just a reduction in how bad it could have been. They were talking about Singapore Worlds. I'd rather have a major somewhere obscure than Worlds. So
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
there's nothing we can do about it, but it's just like, yeah, like what we're talking about, the athletes who are going to qualify for there. It's nothing against the athletes in that region, but they're just not ready.
Yeah.
No.
Rich, just you said Gapek, he actually ran 2 races. He went 58.50 in South Korea, and he was in DC, and he went 61.27. So
there's like
his
59
average
inches.
is a 60.08. If I'm looking at the real time list,
57.05.
He
It'll be
would
like
need
42-ish.
he'd need a 56.55 in order
Oh.
to bump up.
To
But the
15.
only other athlete from who's raced in Asia Pacific so far who is ahead of him is Tengay Cruz, and we've seen him in a couple of the Australian races so far. He's got a 59.33 average, so he'd need to run a 57.22 and shave 3:20 off his second best time. So it's going to be difficult to break in. That's just where the depth is currently at the moment.
Right. So I mean, like Tengway and Gabe, they might be at Worlds. Where if it was,
Oh.
they might
How many spots are available there?
3
3
Which major is it?
second.
So
November,
I mean,
right?
do we really think that 10 of the top 20 people in the world won't be there?
I think it's reasonable to
But
assume
that means
that.
10 will be. There's only 5 spots, and only 5 will have qualified.
Yeah, and this isn't discounting like the athletes, because we've seen so many times in OCR, if you have to travel, you're not going to race as well. Typically, the hometown athletes have an advantage, but hometown for Hong Kong versus
is nobody. Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm just
you've
not
got to
buying it.
travel.
I understand the racer side. I do. But I'm just not buying that they're
That
ready.
nobody will go.
Yeah, I think if I'm fringe, I'm going there. I'm targeting that as someone's not going and I'm going to take it.
Stupid.
Yeah.
All right, let's move along. Jack, what do you got?
Let me just share my screen one more time. So we're talking about picking and choosing races at the moment. So what I did is I compared like fast times, slow times. There we go. Okay, so let's say that you chose Berlin as your race last year. Here's your line where if you're on this side of the graph, on like the left side, that means that you ran faster than expected based on all your previous times. If you're on this side, you ran slower than expected. So if there are a bunch of dots on top of the line, that means that the course is fast. And if we're looking at Berlin for the men right there, and the closer to the line, the less variance. If you're like way out on the side, a few minutes out, that means you were like crazy fast compared to what you should have expected. There's like 1 dot out of a couple hundred from Berlin. So if you happen to pick that time, and we're still going off of time-based system, that is everybody's gonna
like that course should be disqualified.
Yes. Now, what were a couple of the other courses, Rich, that you were questionable of?
Stockholm,
Okay.
Maastricht,
Copenhagen.
Copenhagen.
2023. Copenhagen. What year was 2024? Maastricht.
Even you can put Fort Lauderdale and Chicago.
Okay. And Chicago.
Yeah.
All right. Was that a 2023? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So let's just combine all those right there. Oh, wow. It's as if all of those courses, there are only a handful of people who, ran slower than expected. Almost everybody was way off. If you look at the Nice World Championship for the Elite 15, you've got like some spread,
That's
some
how it should
people on
look.
both sides of it. That's
Some
a
people
fair
crack,
course.
some people boom, some are right on what they should do.
Exactly.
I think
But
I
if
see
you're
my
looking
dot.
at
I think I see
if
my
you
dot in Nice, and it's making me sad.
which one?
I think it's
Is
that
it
one.
the
Yeah, I think that's it.
63:59 versus 62:08 or I don't know. That
Whatever.
but yeah, were you about 64 minutes? That might have been
I
Megiddo,
don't
so
know.
you might have been this one. But you're on this side of the graph regardless.
I'm on the slow side.
Yeah. But if we're looking at some courses that you think are slow, like what were some of those ones?
Give me, well, the clear one was the Singapore, right?
Yeah, Mexico City also.
Mexico City,
Dallas.
New York. Dallas, I don't think was incredibly
Dallas is
slow.
reasonable. New York was slow from what I remember.
Anaheim, I
Well,
don't believe was fast, but it had a lot of
okay.
fast people at it.
The last chance qualifier, yeah. I'll do a few of
Let's just
these.
say.
So if we're looking, it's like, yeah, it's a spread. Some of those,
Hmm.
not as big of a spread as you thought. Let's just look at like the whole season. So, or no, I didn't filter that right.
Everybody's
Every
fast.
race
I didn't filter
disqualified.
that one right. uh, but anyway, you get the point. Like if you choose certain courses, you're gonna see a lot of people who just benefit because that's a fast course historically. While if you're on a slow one, it's like
Yeah.
you're not really in luck.
Yeah, that information is really cool, but like yeah, like we're saying disqualifying courses, you can't do that. That
I
would
know
just be
they
crazy.
wouldn't, but I'm
But
just saying that there's there's true favorability right there.
totally.
It's like there's no denying that was a fast course. It's
Mhm.
like if everyone historically had been run, if athlete A had run a 65, 65, 64, and then at this one course they run a 60 flat. It's like there's no denying they overperformed, and you don't overperform by 4 minutes if the next race that you run is back to 64, for instance.
Yeah.
And like that's the expected outcome that I'm talking about right there.
As you're doing that, that just looked like triathlon, Ironman. That's what it looked like. All these courses where you have the fastest times and people look at where's the fastest place to qualify versus the easiest, where's the hilliest versus the flattest. That's what slow twitch forums look like. That right there. People are going over and over this. And you know what they do?
They
They
look
just
for those
allocate
ones.
That's
spots.
the thing.
They
That's
allocate spots. That's how they fixed it. You can go to your flat,
Mm.
fast one. If you are a speed-based, rhythm-based athlete, you can go to your big climbing ones. You can go to your altitude ones. You can go to heat, cold. It doesn't matter. But we're going to give spots per race. And that's how they fixed it. And now it is above reproach. If everyone wants to go run the fast course, that's fine. But there's only 4 spots in your age group.
Yep. And it sounded like Hyrox, they had an interview with Matt, and they were saying they're gonna like make it more difficult because previously it was you have 1,000 people, we're gonna give the top 1%, but if you have 2,000 people or there was a certain percent of finishers that were gonna earn a spot to get to Worlds, whether it was age group, teams, elite,
But it wasn't even.
but it wasn't even for all those. You're saying with the triathlon method that it's no matter what course it is, altitude, flat, hills, they were like, we're going to give 3 spots here. Like
No, it's a percentage, and it's based on numbers
okay.
in your age group and numbers in pro and all that. Yeah.
Okay. But that sort of assumes that you're hoping a certain number of people with that skill set are all going to make the same decision to show to that one. So it still has like a little bit of flaw, but it is nice because it seems to have corrected itself.
Yeah, and then they stopped caring about times as much, and it hasn't affected the sport. It's how well do you place in your division. That's all that the sport's about until you get to your championships and they compare time year to year. But the media cares about that more than the athletes do. It's about position, which is what our sport should be. And there seems to be some fear on Hyrox side that if they get away from time, they lose what they're going to post about. They're going to lose what they're going to claim as their claim to fame in the sport, but it
still
doesn't
have a
matter.
record. You can still have the records.
Standing
right?
there with a first place check looks every bit as impressive as standing there with a time card.
Because now
and
everybody
maybe it's more acceptable.
And everybody knows anybody who pays attention, anybody who races often understands that these courses are not the same. So it's not like who are we fooling? Who are we pretending? And from the outside, there's no context. So what does it matter? Like have the records, fine. There's too many already, but have like the 2 records
There's only one
halftime.
sport that won't do this that's major, and that's marathoning. But
Right.
they
They have
put
to have like
times, qualifying times that are so attainable that pretty much everyone that could podium, not pretty much anyone who would have any semblance of qualifying and podiuming are in their sleep.
Yes.
yeah.
Where
How many times do you see a marathon course published? It's like, here's the fastest Boston Marathon qualifying time. Like
Mhm.
84% of our finishers end up making it
Right.
because we're a net downhill and they allow that. And we found the loophole. Like they advertise stuff like that.
Well, we know you got to
40,000
run 205 to podium at a world championship in a
Mhm.
tactical race. So a 208 flat or 209 Olympic standard is a walk in the park for these guys. They've made it so that everyone with a chance gets in because they
Right.
won't get away from time.
And
Yeah.
that's with like Boston, is it like 40,000 people make Boston, right?
Mhm.
Not 15. So
Yeah.
it comes
And
down
it's
to
still
field size,
exclusive.
and it's still exclusive.
Like
Right.
they've straddled that line. How do we make it so that we have a vacuum? People always want to suck into there. Like, how can I get in? But you can get in.
We can get in. How many people make the elite fields in Kona?
That
I
is a
don't
good
know.
question. I don't know.
The pro.
I'll look it
pro-
up. Keep
pro
talking.
field.
It's big.
More than
But
15?
I'd say it's closer to triple digits than it is to 15.
Huh. That's interesting. Because that's always the thing. It's like, oh, well, marathons are like that. Triathlons like that. It's like, it's not. And it's an
46.
hour-long race.
How many?
46 finishers in the pro division for Ironman World Championship full results in Kona.
Wow, that's not that many.
That
That's
was how
with
many
DNFs.
that was how many women there were, 46. So I'm gonna guess
With
it's
DNFs,
probably
probably closer to that.
50 to 60. I just found an
Maybe
article. I
50.
don't have the full
Yeah.
results.
Maybe I was wrong. Maybe it's not closer to triple digits than 15,
Maybe it's in the middle, right in the middle between.
but it's not 15.
It's not
Yeah.
15. All right. So yeah, Jack was worried that wasn't gonna occupy much time. Took an hour.
Look what
Oh,
happens.
Just under an hour for that. So let's move along the.
Jack, thanks for that work.
Thanks, Jack.
You're
That was
welcome.
great.
Yeah,
Fantastic
there you go.
work.
And good work, team.
Nice butt.
Yeah.
Darkish heathered blue today.
Yeah. That's what we
Gray,
do.
gray derivative.
Jack,
sure.
do you have to trust us on this?
I just wear blue all the time, so it's
it's
more
all-
like you guys matching my likely color.
Everything's gray.
I'm Mickey Mouse vision. Like Rich's
it's-
background, those skulls on the wall. I'm like, that's
Gray.
my color.
All
there.
gray.
Yeah.
So the Olympics are going on. We've been locked in. I was out camping. Kind
Oh,
of
real quick, should we give a caveat to people? Because I got a couple messages from people being like, if you're talking about the Olympics, tell us when to stop listening because some people
Now.
haven't caught up. Now.
No,
Spoiler
not yet.
alert.
No, not
Not
actually. We're
yet.
not talking results yet. We're talking the ideas that we
I'm gonna
liked
blurt
from
them
the
out
Olympics.
randomly.
Okay.
Just I'm not
First
caught
place.
up to
Yeah.
Kipchoge won the 800.
Usain Bolt made a comeback.
So we're going to talk about the things that we've experienced when watching the Olympics and how we feel like that we can learn in our sport or things that we can relate between mostly track and field. I guess we can expand beyond track and field, but that's where I'm locked in. There's too much track and field for me to watch anything else. So just like figuring out things that they do that maybe we could do, or how the athletes carry themselves versus what we're witnessing in our little space. So we're gonna kick it around and see what you guys got.
Wheel of names.
Wheel of names.
Wheel of names.
Wheel of names. All right.
So
Sharon.
which other event have you watched any other races? Because I found probably
Everything.
new top 3 favorite sport just clicking around. You guys seen kayak cross?
We watched that yesterday.
Oh man,
is it?
that is
Got
so
barrel
cool.
rolls.
Yeah. So it's basically have you seen any like the slalom courses for kayak or canoe?
I've seen the slalom.
Okay. So sometimes you have to go back upstream if it's like a red one, and green, you just continue going downstream. But what they have is you start 20 feet up or so, and then they release the gate like you would in BMX racing, and you drop into the water, and there are 4 people going head to head at the same time, top 2 advance. So they're like hitting each other with paddles, and then abruptly in the middle, there's like a low barrier. So they have to do a barrel roll to get under it. And then if you pick a line, you might get there first, but the person behind can just ram into you and push you out of the way. And
It's
now
like
they
road
take
rash?
it is amazing racing. It's like NASCAR almost, right, Bracken?
Nope, not at all,
No.
but it is awesome.
All right, here we go.
I don't
Wheel
know
of
my car
names.
racing. Bracken not yellow again. He's mad about that.
We're all gray on here.
Paint it black.
That's your man's going first. Got takes. All right. See who's going second.
Give me that.
I already talked enough. You guys can go
Bang. All right. Jack, you're going to get your little thing
first.
here.
Let's see. Come on. There we go.
And that's Jack.
That's me.
Got third. All right. I'm going to start with what is a new installment here. And I think, I don't know if I want to beat a dead horse with everything that we're covering, but the track and field has introduced a repechage. I think it's the first time I said that out loud. Repechage? Repechage?
Repechage.
is good. Yeah.
Yeah.
A
That's good.
repechage, which basically is like a loser's bracket from what
Some wrestleback.
Yeah. So
Everybody gets to run 2 races.
from the 200 to the 1500,
100. They
uh,
had
I don't
hurdles.
believe-
They had 100-meter, I thought.
I thought it was the 200.
Okay. You might. I
You
know
can
that
look it
they
up.
had
Maybe
it
the
for
hurdles,
for
for
sure.
hurdles, yeah.
But yeah.
Which, yeah, you basically get a round where you can work yourself back into, I believe, the semis. So if your rounds don't go well, you can move back in. And this, I think, was for races that had, no, I guess not, because of 15, I was going to say, yes, any race that had more than 2 rounds.
Yeah.
Right?
5K has 2 groups, or has only semifinals and finals.
Steeple only has that as well.
Yes.
So, anything
1500 down. Yeah.
1500 down so you can't race your way into the final, but you can race your way back into the semis to continue to try to push for your spot. I don't know how, when I heard this, I was like, that's interesting, but I believe they've done it and I'm still not sure if I like it, but it does completely eliminate time, and how we talk about getting rid of time in a sport like athletics, track and field, which is about as standardized as it can get. Even they move away from time when it comes to championship races. It's just like very affirming to me. I'm like, great. Can we all just agree
This about you.
that this is about me, the repechage, Richie repechage? Then I don't know if it works, like if it matters, right? Are we going to see anybody move from the repechage to the finals?
I think the best result from the 1500 was 8th place for someone in the next round. You know, after running they didn't make the top 5 or 6 in the opening round, had to run the repechage for the 1500. And then it's like in the semifinals, best was 8th place, and it took top 5 or 6 to make it. So it didn't have an impact. If you're in a distance-based sport, you're facing people who are realistically faster than you, and you have more fatigue under your legs. It's not going to be a winning formula there.
We saw someone in the 200 do it at a previous event, whether it was Olympic or Worlds.
Distance wise.
Correct.
That's
It's
what I
very
was talking
difficult in the distance.
Yes.
But the distance event, the distance world is ruled by petitions, filing a grievance. And we've seen people moved on through, like the steeplechaser. Steeplechaser was, I think it was a bad call, but it doesn't matter. Missed the steeple because they were bumped out and had to go back and moved all the way back up and missed it by like a 10th. And then was just, after they filed a grievance, they
put him back
through.
in?
He got back in. That was one of the gutsiest running on pure.
Yeah, but why didn't he jump over the hurdle? That's like the main thing.
He was running almost on the line,
Yeah.
and then decided he wanted in, moved in on someone who kind of just did like this, but was twice his size, and he got bumped out around it in stride.
That's like his fault. He was in poor
To
positioning.
me, it was entirely his fault, but they gave him the spot in the final.
That's crazy.
Anyways, that's what happens in distance events. You just file a petition and you get through. But in the sprints, it's a legitimate route back in.
Jack, did you look up? Did you get to see? Did the 100? Because I could see the hurdles. Someone just hitting a hurdle and not being able and like finding their way back in, and the 100 as well. It's a bad start.
Yeah,
have the top end.
Yeah, we've talked about it several times. If you just twitch wrong, you're out in a sprint event. At least you have multiple laps, several minutes in 1500, maybe the 800, but even then it's like, that's an extended sprint, arguably. Like 1500 is the only one where your start doesn't really affect things.
Yeah. Did you see if the 100 counted? I thought that was, I could be wrong.
I'll look it up, but keep going.
So anyway, I don't believe it needs to even be here. 400, maybe 400 at the highest. I think it's great for sprints because, like you said, if you just stumble out of your blocks or your
Mhm.
shoes untie, like something weird happens, you're done. I think we do want the best people in the final. I don't mind upsets, but I like that you have the chance to make up for a mistake rather than 4 years is out the window with one twitch.
Yeah. And Rich, you're correct. 200 meters for sprints, 110 and 100-meter hurdles is the shortest, but 200 for the pure sprint.
That's so strange. It should be like the
Yeah.
100,
Yeah.
you know? I didn't even really watch these, and I watch everything. I was like skimming through them, and I was like, "Ugh, what is this?" After, because it was like I watched 6 rounds of the 800 rounds, and then the next day there was 4 repechage rounds or something like that. I was like, "This
The
is
winner
getting
of each.
crazy." Yeah, and I was like, "I can't watch these 800s, and then they just aren't gonna see themselves through."
Yeah.
Did you guys watch the repechage rounds?
I
No,
did.
I haven't.
See,
You had
Jack.
some athletes
Jack's a real one.
seriously. Oh, I've that Peacock app. I've been glued to it.
You
I
see how
look
they
at it
raise
like in the 800 or 15, if you didn't get through the first time, what are you going to get more tired and then do good? Like I'm just not buying it.
The only instance where I could see that happening is if you trip and fall in like the 800. It's like I'm not getting back up and beating it, and now you just need to complete it, and then you're like,
Yes.
all right, here's a chance. But
You could
that's
get boxed
kind of
in. You could have your positioning messed up for a
Yeah.
15, or
Yeah.
even that steeple that we talked about, that dude who tried to get his way back in. He basically hit a wall, like a wall of people,
Truly.
because he couldn't get past when he ran his all the way back. So if something like that happens, maybe.
Yeah.
But like, that's your fault.
Now,
do that for?
what are your thoughts on this? Where you had Freddie Crittenden. By now, it's like 3-4 days ago. You should have seen it already.
Spoilers.
Stop listening.
Alert.
Stop listening
Spoilers.
if you don't want to talk about results. But he was like, my hamstring or something was acting up, and not like a crazy injury, but if I go all out, I might really hurt myself. He's like, 2 more days. That's when the repechage round is. I'm gonna be healthier then. But the originally scheduled program, you need to get to the start line healthy. So does every single other athlete. But he gamed the system. He's like, well, I'm not healthy today, but I might be in a couple days.
Mhm.
Like, I know he's on the US. We should be cheering for him and stuff, but that's like part of the game. You need to get to the start line healthy on the day to race. And he just kind of took advantage of the loophole.
Right, and it didn't take long. Right, like
No.
someone figured out a way to game this thing immediately.
Yeah.
I like it for one-on-one sports. Like if you run into the best in the world in your opening round, you could be the second best in the world and you're out.
You got a
So
bad
I
draw.
like it for the ability to withstand going against a buzzsaw early and still prove that you belong on the medal stand or in the final. In mass start, I almost like the petition system. No, I'm fine with it. You can have it. It's not super effective.
I think I like it. Do you like it better than time? Because typically what it would be, right? They would take the top X amount of places, and then they would take the rest based off time.
A handful
So,
of time qualifiers.
Which they still do into the final.
and just for, yes, but only like 2 people make it across
Right.
all of
let's
the
say
heats.
let's say 8 make the finals. You take the top 2 of each of the 3 semifinals heats, and then the next 2 fastest time qualifiers, regardless of where they came from those 3 semifinal heats.
And that's
they
what
could
it
be
is.
from
So
the same one. They could,
Yes.
yeah.
So it's still a combination of that. And I think that, I don't know, because I don't necessarily like when it becomes tactical around what the other races have done.
Mm-hmm.
I don't love
Having
that.
an advantage going first, last.
Right.
Knowing
That
the
sucks.
time, you're like, that was a very tactical heat. Versus, we just have to run fast.
So I'm a fan of bigger finals and more qualifying per heat so that you don't have to worry about times. So I guess, yes, I'm a fan of bigger finals. Some people aren't because there's more chaos, but I feel like it sorts itself out anyways. And then this championship racing. So I'm okay with bigger. I like this better. I do.
I agree. Because
the-
we're go ahead.
Not the repage or whatever, but I like
Repechage.
the just top 5 go through repechage.
Repechage.
What are your thoughts on how swimming versus running does it, or track? Where say you have 2 heats and there are 8 people in each heat, they have 16 total. It doesn't matter. You could have all 8 people from one heat make it to the finals because it's only time based because they can't fit that many people in a pool. Do you like that
I'm
time
better
based
with that.
thing because they're the faster racers, or do you like, hey, our heat has tactics in it. So I beat, based on the pace we're going, I beat everybody, but we didn't run faster than this time trial heat, basically.
I like it because it's not pack racing.
Hmm.
Yes, you can get against the lane line and get a bit of a draft, but like it's straight line. There are
Yeah.
very few group tactics even available to you, and everyone enters the water knowing it's time. So I like that.
Yeah, it seems like it's just like a different sport, right? Like,
Yeah, one thing with the repechage that I think we
nice.
forget watching because these people are borderline superhuman is that if you were to set out to run 3 fast miles in a week, and now I said you have to run 4, it would change things drastically for you.
That
And
was my
so even though
initial
we look
response.
like, oh, you're better, you could have had it, just race it. It kind of eliminates you from being able to run the 4th well. And
Mhm.
so it's like it's fool's gold.
Mhm.
So while I like the more qualifiers going through in no time, it's almost like I don't think there's a point of the repechage for anything longer than 200 meters, maybe 4, because
4 maybe.
it's fool's gold.
Or maybe, yeah, if you fall
Even
down.
that, who wants to run an extra 400 all out in a week? Like,
No one wants to
you're
run one
sick.
400.
Who's
Right?
prepared to run 4 1500s? No one's
Yeah.
preparing for that, right?
Stefan
Yeah, that was my
Hassan,
initial
maybe.
response too.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, exactly. Was that like, how can they expect anyone to do well?
They give
Right.
you a day off in the program between events, knowing how difficult it is to recover. So now it's like no days off. You got to race again on a more beat up body progressively throughout the week.
And you're not 1 mile more tired.
Oh no.
You're
Right.
now an entire day less recovered and another race more fatigue. Like it's double-sided there.
And everyone's running for their lives there because they're like, if I don't win this repechage heat, I'm not advanced. So you are not holding back. There's nothing but an all-out kick at the end.
We saw that. People didn't show up for the 200 and maybe 400 because they're just like, whatever, we're in the relay pool. We're just gonna focus on that. Like,
Yeah.
it's not worth it. They just didn't show up.
It's probably not, it's most likely not going to factor into the end results, but for the athletes who work their way back in, I'm sure they love it. That's got to be awesome.
And like Jack said, you're guaranteed 2 races.
Yeah.
You're not
Sure,
one
right.
and done. Like if you're there for the Olympic experience, you get to line up again, wear your colors, be announced to the crowd, and
introduced.
compete on the track again. To get
Totally.
another set of Instagram shots. Like great, that's fine.
Totally.
That's what
You're
they're
in there for a
for.
medal,
Yeah.
you're screwed.
Yep.
All right, BK, what do you got?
What I liked, and I think this is not Olympic specific, but it's maybe important to see the best in the world do this, is that my hope is that the average person watching it pays attention rather than going to get snacks when they cut away to the warm-up facility. It is a job warming up for these races and staying loose in between heats and timing things. And we hear so many complaints about people that the first mile of a race is too hard or too fast. They're not ready. And we hear so many complaints that we had a 10-minute weather delay or whatever happened, or I can't wear my sweatshirt to the line because you can't throw. So there's no bins at the line. Like the very best in the world spend an hour preparing for their race and then have to go to this little room and take off everything except what they're going to compete in, and then just stand there and wait. And then what we saw with the men's 100, they had to stand there for minutes on the track.
That was
That was
crazy.
brutal.
Crazy. And then they still have to
Stupid.
go out and compete. And I just think it's important for everyone to realize that the very best in the world warm up like their life depends on it and are adaptable to what's going to happen. You didn't see a single person there start looking around and putting their hands up at the 100-meter start line. They just stayed dialed in, and then they started moving when they wanted to move, but they just stayed locked. So the warm up and the mental preparation process, we don't care about your excuses. You have to do it, and you're going to be such a better athlete if you take your warm up seriously.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I like this one. Sometimes I feel there's some questions in the past, a lot of people asking, like when they're feeling like the first mile is so hard. It's like, did you warm up? They're like, oh, I don't want to get tired. It's like,
Yeah.
then your fitness is poor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're worried about your warm up ruining the race, like you're not ready.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
that's you gotta be warmed up. It's gonna make
It's
the
a harsh
race a lot
truth.
better.
But if you're not fit enough to do your warm up and your race, then you shouldn't be signing up for a race to compete.
Yes.
Go to your
that's a good
race and
point.
have fun, but you're not there to compete if you can't complete a warm up.
Yeah, totally.
And you should be dialed in enough to know what's my minimum effective dose warm up if I am a little shy on fitness. Like
Right.
if I were to run a beast right now, I'm not fit enough to run a 3 mile warm up and race a beast. I know that. But you give me 6 minutes and I can be warmed up enough to run a beast because we're pretty dialed into our warm ups.
Once you get like a bead of sweat, it's like, okay, I'm ready. But you cut it short, you're in trouble. And how many times, Bracken, have you mentioned? I think it was on running public one time that you need like an A, a B, a C type of warm up depending on the circumstance. Like,
Yeah.
who hasn't arrived at a stadium race? Rich, I'm sure it's happened to you where you're like, it takes 20 extra minutes to get through check-in because they don't
Me and
open it on
BK
time.
in
That's
New
right.
York. We're like,
Yeah.
what are
We're
we gonna
standing
wear?
there. I didn't even get my race shoes on.
Only have
Yeah.
one out. Yeah, can only
I
put
didn't
them
have
on for
time
1
to get
second.
back to my
Yeah.
bag before the race started. I just ran in the shoes I was wearing.
Yeah, it's like you might have thought that you had this ideal timeline, but guess what? That timeline didn't happen. It even happens for Olympic athletes. We saw Shelly Ann Fraser-Price, Sha'Carri Richardson get stopped at a
Yeah.
gate because they made some change in the arrivals and they weren't on the team bus or something like that. And now their warm-ups got screwed up. And Sha'Carri was like, you know what? I'm still gonna run. Shelly Ann Fraser-Price was like, I'm not gonna show up anymore. So
Yeah.
pretty lame.
Well, and she was on the verge of injured already.
I thought Sharika was.
I heard
They
they
both
both
were.
were.
All the Jamaicans, which I think something's going on realistically.
Anyway,
yeah,
I think to
That's
nail
old.
home my point even more, that example of Rich and I at City Field when suddenly like races started in 18 minutes and we're
Yeah.
not warmed up and I don't have my shoes. Like, what decision did you and I make? I ended up racing in like a long sleeve shirt and my running public shirt over the top.
Yeah,
I had
it
my
was cold.
my tempo shoes on, which they're fine enough to run in, but I decided not to go back and get my race gear in order to spend every second warming up.
Yep.
I
I, like,
raced in my
stashed
less
it.
fast shoes in order to just be prepared. Like the warm up matters more than most people realize.
Still
you
gave me
didn't
that
have
work.
3 extra minutes. Yeah,
Yeah.
Jack, what do you got?
I've been a huge fan of relays. I think they've been fantastic, and I think that they're
Just mixed?
they're a form. Well, so far that's kind of been the main one that's happened, but I think that they're such a good format for speed, just getting people engaged. You have both genders on there at the same time, but the battles head to head are still fantastic. If you watch the mixed triathlon, the sprint triathlon, do you see that yet?
No.
Off that was a fantastic. I don't want to spoil it for you guys. If
Before you get too
haven't
far into
seen
it, I just want to highlight this. Rich came up with, I like that we're moving away from time-based qualifications. It's good for sport. I talked about warm-ups are important. Jack said, I like relays.
what I was gonna say is that relays transfer or they show up really well on camera, and I think that they'd be very
Okay.
exciting for hybrid and OCR, like
BK
that
hates
type
this
of
one. BK
that type
hates
of
this answer
format.
from you.
I love relays.
Hates them.
I'm not tuning into Deca relays, but I love relays.
Yeah.
Today
Hates these
during my
relays.
intervals, I was watching the triathlon mixed relay.
So you did
So
see it.
is it sprint or is it Olympic?
Sprint.
It's a modified sprint. It
Three-
was like
300
300-meter
meters.
swim.
Yeah.
Oh,
Go ahead,
wow.
Jack.
So it's short.
300-meter swim, 6K bike, and like a mile roughly.
A little
for the
over.
run.
What? Really?
Yeah.
2K maybe.
Yeah, and you had like all the top, like Alex Yee and what's her name, Beth
Blumenfeld.
Potter. You had all the top athletes there, and there were lead changes. They had downhills for some of the transition zones. You see that girl from Germany there was a downhill run. She went from third to first because she could run downhill down some ramp better. Like it was so exciting. And then on the 4x4 mixed for the Olympics, fantastic race. We saw Femke Bol doing what she does. And I just think that relays are a very, very good format to introduce and highlight.
It does increase the amount of athletes who are able to participate. But for that example, like there was one athlete in that, maybe more than one, but Femke Bol was head and shoulders the best athlete in that field because it's not drawing the best athletes, and they won. Like she won it for them.
My triathlon example, though, you had all the top dogs in there, for instance.
What I love about it is that it takes people and takes the restrictor plate off. And you get to see how freakish the athletes are at red line rather than at being a
7
freak at
hours.
towing the line. They all just rip off the restrictor plate and go because they're not holding back thinking, how am I going to feel later? Is this the smart tactical move? It's, I need to cover up for my teammates' deficiencies and I need to set my teammates up for success. And they just empty it in a different way. And I really, really like seeing that. They're using different strides than they would normally use. Not 4x4, but the other types of events.
I picked Ireland in my fantasy track and field on the mixed relay, and Radisha Adelike decides not to run it. Then I'm toast. They took him off and put in some pale white person. Got worked.
From Ireland? Wow.
From Ireland.
You're crazy.
Well, Radisha Adelike is not. And she's legit. So I'm sour.
How do we lose any 4x4 ever?
We just don't put the.
We had 13 or 14 of the
Sydney
top 20 times individual performances in the world this year, female, heading into Olympic trials. 13 of 20. How do we not win?
Dwayne Dedman. Dwayne?
Bryce Dedman.
Bryce Dedman. He should have done better.
Well, they also shouldn't have tried setting a world record when they could have just coasted in the day before. Like,
I don't think it was that anchor. I don't think it was that anchor leg's fault.
She got
Dedman needs to give us something.
Yeah.
Get Matt Bowling in there.
Matt Bowling, yeah.
Come on, 300
He
meters.
should just be all relays all the time.
Yeah.
He does better in relays for sure. All right, so Jack likes relays. Good to know.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jack.
I think it's an exciting format to follow. That was kind of where I was trying to tie it.
I wish there was more. I wish there was a 4x8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Crazy.
That'd be awesome. DMR stinks.
Like sprint medley, like 4, 8, 12 miles.
A sprint medley would be sick. DMR, they got to flip it.
DMR just comes down to milers and who.
That's why they got to flip it. It's got to be 16, 12, 8, 4, something like that.
Yeah.
Can't put that mile at the end because then it's just dumb.
Yep. Got another one?
I got something.
All right.
Something that I noticed in some of these races that just seems so obvious, but if you're not the absolute best in the field, you have to put yourself in the race. Like we saw what Grant Fisher did. We saw what I actually was watching the steeple heats yesterday, and it was the final heat with Kenneth Rooks, and it's Gordy Beamish. And Gordy was running like he was the best athlete in the field, kind of trailing off the back. Like he was
didn't work out.
Right. Or like he was I'm forgetting the woman who did that. I mean, like the best woman who didn't win, Netherlands.
Faith Kip. Femke Bol? What?
No. Hassan.
Hassan,
yeah. Oh, Sifan Hassan.
Sifan Hassan. Like these athletes are so much better that they can make these moves up. But an athlete like Kenneth Rooks or Grant Fisher, they need to put themselves directly in it and cover every single move and just decide that they're going to be in it. Elise Craney kind of did this as well. It didn't work out as well for her at the end.
She went for it though.
She went for it. And you kind of have to be in the race unless you are just head and shoulders like the best. But if you're not, you can't mess around.
Luis Grijalva is like the best at this.
That's my guy.
Doesn't win a race, really, but he can just stay in a race.
He gets fourth everywhere.
Yeah, it's a good point, Rich. And Kirk and I talked about this a couple of weeks prior after trials, but the counter to that is if you're not the best in the field, you do not belong leading.
Right.
You belong in 2nd through 6th.
Yes.
Like, oh, it's slowing. Let's get that. We got to, yeah, but you're a sacrificial lamb. Don't do it. Let someone else will do it. Do not lead. There's a reason no one's leading.
Right. Unless you have
I can't kick with them at the end. Right. Doesn't matter. You can't kick with them at the end anyway. You can't run it out of them. Stay in the pack, but at the front of the pack.
Their PR's 30 seconds faster than yours. It's not going to work out.
Make longer moves, right?
Longer moves.
Yep.
1K out. And when we get into the spoiler section, I have a great.
Like you can't run a 50, like a 48 flat. And they can. You can run like 50. So you're toast at the end. And you can't run 1250. You can run 1255. But somewhere in the middle, there's a distance that your 1,000 might be close to their 1,000.
Yes.
That's where you need to get to.
Yep.
Yes. But you have to be there. You have to be there.
I think to add on to this, I think it's you basically, if you have a pre-race plan and your fitness agrees with it, if you stick to it, it can lead to good things, which is your Grant Fisher analogy right there. Like he was like, I am not, it doesn't matter with all the tactical lead changes, which we can get into later because that race was so good in the 10K. It's like, he's like, I'm going to stick within the top 2 to 3 this entire race. Doesn't matter how much they speed up, who the new guy is in the front. This is my pre-race plan. I'm going to stay in medal position no matter what. And it worked out. And you saw the same thing in the women's 5K where Beatrice Tribet and Faith Kippigat didn't matter. They're like, we're just gonna stay right here, right at the front, and then you had a little bit of controversy there, but
And the Italian woman did it
yes,
extremely well.
Yes.
yep,
Almost got her a medal
yeah,
It did.
it did temporarily, yeah,
for 1 second.
which is crazy.
There's nothing worse than premature decisions. Like, don't announce it. Take in all the information.
Wait
If
till
someone
tomorrow.
appeals, you know there's going to be a counter appeal. Just hold your horses and let the
Right.
process play out.
Crazy.
Brutal mentally. Yep.
All right. So my extension off that then, Rich, is that the distance running is mirroring Hyrox right now. Where Hyrox started out like the 90s and early 2000s of endurance running, where there's 1 to 2 people who are just better than everyone else. And they either go out and drop everyone, or at some point in the race, they just crush everybody. And the end of that was Mo Farah. He would let it get late as he wanted to, and then would decide to go. But that's how Hyrox was, except more from the gun. There was just 1 or 2 always who would be gone, and the rest was table scraps. And now we're starting to see that the fields have really caught up to the top end. And even in the men's side, we saw Ethiopia and Kenya for the first time ever work together in Olympic final, like with their teammates. Like, take turns leading and pushing. Every single time the pace started to sag, the next Ethiopian moved on up. And that was always the criticism. You can't beat Mo Farah unless you run it out of him because he's too fast at the end. And they always said they were going to, and they never did. They did that now. They tried. And the rest of the world still was packed up like 15 deep, running whatever pace they were running. So the kind of the takeaway from all this is that when there's more parity in the field and people are catching up, it's the people who can do it more relaxed and smoother on their moves and not wasting energy worrying someone passed me, I passed. The people who burst to cover moves or are looking around frantically, they're the first people spit out when the real racing starts. And I think we're starting to see that with Hyrox, where 15 people come into sled push. And if you come out behind, like some people frantically move and others do their pace, that when there's parity, you have to have throttle discretion. You have to know how to easy make your moves.
I like it.
Yep. Definitely. Mine sort of plays in that, but I think that in a lot of races that we see on the Diamond League or other one-off meets, it's essentially a time trial. The Olympics is about surviving rounds, and I think that volume matters. We saw in the women's 10K, Safan Hassan, what's she done? She's moved up to the marathon. She ran like a 2:12. She's running the 10K, but she just medaled in the 5K. We see in the 5K or the 1500 for the women today, El Perrier, she qualified. Oh, sorry. It's just it's round 1, so it wasn't.
So we're not even in the spoiler rounds. We're not even there. You're already you're spoiling it.
All right. I won't go anymore.
Goodness, make a different point.
Okay. I was just gonna say that, and one other example would be like Noah Lyles. Can I spoil him?
That was days ago.
Yeah.
You're talking about something that happened like hours ago.
Sorry.
We talked about.
Noah Lyles obviously has that top end speed and he can stretch it out. His 200 strength proved that it paid off at the end of this 100. Granted, he had like a great lead, but you have to survive a bunch of rounds, and that's not like just going to a Diamond League and running a single or maybe 2 100s. You have to run 3, and I think that strength and having that volume to survive rounds really pays off. So it can translate to other sports.
Volume is king. Kent, I've said it on here before, and we did a whole podcast on it on TRP. But one time Kent said something, he and I, maybe Rich, we were doing a watch along for Hyrox, and he said volume gives you wiggle room when a race goes south or goes off the rails. Like, the training volume doesn't need to be there to run well, but your window is narrow when you don't have high volume. Like, you can win a world championship on low volume, but if anything comes up or another round is added or you fall or whatever happens, volume gives you wiggle room to withstand other things. And you see that at these championships where people can run rounds and rounds and rounds and then have something available at the end.
A lot of people can pop a single good race, but oftentimes those fastest qualifiers in the early rounds, they're not the ones who get the medal at the end of the day.
Except my boy Kenny's gonna pop in that first
second place.
20, 200.
And then Arion. also followed up right after.
The 200 is looking strong. All right, let's
Yes.
go ahead and drop that big spoiler warning. We're just gonna give some takes about what we've seen, what we like, more into the sport, less about the big picture stuff, and more about exactly what has happened. So you can continue to listen along if you're a track fan. If you're interested in learning a little bit more, want to go back and check it out. Peacock subscription was $11, now it's $13. Scumbags, Jack. I'm surprised you didn't just drop them out of principle.
Drop it. Yeah. Well,
I might drop
paid.
them. Their player is so terrible.
It's awful.
It's terrible. Yeah. No, oh my God. Okay, we're in the spoiler section. Did you guys watch pole vault yesterday?
Yes.
Did
You
it
stick
cut
to the
out for
very
you?
end, and the announcer says, "And we're indoor volleyball starting, but we're not leaving.
We're gonna
And
stay
then
here.
Mondo stays. He's got the gold medal. He's going for the world record. He goes like this.
No
Coverage has ended.
way.
Right there.
I didn't
And
watch it
was
coverage
live.
has ended.
I watched the recording. If
So
I was
then I
watching
go
it live, I
back.
would have been like, good.
And I click on it to try to get it on the other one, and it says replay will be available in like
Yep,
32
shortly.
minutes
Yeah,
or something.
yeah,
I was like, so
It was like The Sopranos.
I've got bunny ears for the not having cable, but just the regular TV to watch football and stuff. And as soon as that happened, I was like, oh my God, what channel is it
I
on?
thought
'Cause,
those
like,
didn't work anymore.
They
I
do.
thought-
Yeah. I've
You
had
gotta
it
have a
forever.
digital receiver with them. don't you?
Yeah. I get like 6 channels, but it's so I can watch football.
Oh my goodness.
But anyway, yeah, I switched over to it, and Mondo's mid stride down there. I'm like, this is the
Oh,
worst.
I haven't seen it
timing.
since.
Oh, it was the worst timing that I've ever seen.
Did he set it?
Yeah.
Do you want, yeah.
He hit it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got a
Braden, Ayla, we're all sitting here like the kids are into it because it looks
Ugh.
spectacular, right? It's
Yeah.
a weird event, but it looks really cool. If a person's flying.
Yeah.
So-
Truly.
So this is where I'm going to start with my takes. That pole vault sucks. Pole vault's the worst.
We had a discussion yesterday of events we should just remove.
That's the
Pole
one.
vault's
that
on
it?
it.
Yeah.
Has to be.
It's the goofiest
During the 5K,
It's not the goofiest.
track event.
you don't
What do you
think
It's
so?
the goofiest.
Nay, what other
I think
example would be like,
discus
man,
is goofier.
it's a throwing implement.
Yeah,
They already
it's-
have like pick up a rock and throw it. That makes sense. Pick up a sheep, spin it around and throw it. Sure, you're in the highlands. Let's flatten the rock and see. Let's do another throw.
Let's throw a pizza. Let's do
throw
it.
pizza. Maybe
There are
yeah,
herders in the mountains who use poles to cross chasms. That's a real thing that happens.
There
in
are
life.
multiple sports that exist with throwing a disc-shaped item like disc golf and ultimate frisbee. There's precedent. I don't think it's that crazy. I know it's a
Nah.
hurl, but
They
It's
both
top,
should be gone.
It's top 3. It's top 3 goofy.
yeah, but it's
Decathlon gone.
pole vault's worse.
Decathlon gone? Are
Gone.
you kidding me?
Or change the events.
That's the best overall.
Get rid of the 1500 and add something else. It's not the best overall.
I
Best
think-
overall athlete, like you've
No.
got athletes running 10-3 and
I think
13 low and
absolutely.
hurt. That is, you are so well rounded.
47 and change. These dudes
Doesn't
are
make you
like
athletic.
6'6". They're doing everything. I think they're the
Freak
best athletes in the
engines, that
world.
Short stuff, sure.
How's that any different than what Hyrox or Deca or OCR, anything? It's like I'm pretty good at a lot of stuff, but I'm not like world
Because
class.
it doesn't
at
exist
one thing.
at the venue of all the other people who are better than their thing.
I don't know. I think the decathlon's incredibly impressive.
Anybody
You know,
has
it's
a
super impressive, but so is pole vaulting.
you growing up at high school, middle school, whatever. If you're like showing some potential that you're good at every single event and you can truly be there on a world stage, it's like you're recognizing who the
Only because
best
the sport
freak
exists.
athletes are.
They just suck at distance running. That's why BK doesn't like it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Just get rid of the 1500, put something else cool in there, and then I'm on
800.
board.
800, I think, is better. Or like the 1,000.
I
You know
don't
what I
even
had?
think they
thought
should
of it.
try running long. Distance
5K.
running has no component of athleticism,
Right.
so don't even try it.
It's a little
Yeah.
Put
and-
something
and-
else cool in there.
And they look bad. And like and it's disproportionately worse than they are at everything else. Like some of these guys are
They
could
could
be
make the
national
final.
qualifiers. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they could make the NCAA finals.
Ashton Eaton was like a 17.5-foot pole vaulter, 18 feet. Like
That's
he's
crazy.
good.
Right. And I think Leo Neugebauer, he's a
Yeah,
discus,
Germany.
even though goofy. He can throw that thing.
Yep.
Pole vault sucks though. It moved away from the 5K final like 4 times to watch these guys just miss.
So mad.
They,
And that
I
was
just
a
like,
good 5K final.
can we just go split screen? What's the big deal with why can't we
But
do split screen? Why do I got to
they
watch
have-
this guy miss the pole vault?
Put it in gymnastics.
Put it in
Put it
gymnastics.
somewhere else.
Get it out
They're
of
the
here.
only people taller than 4'8". But yeah.
Takes forever. And that's the thing that with high jump too. Like these events that are
High jump's cool.
off, but they're all off of misses, so there's not really. It just goes too long.
Cumulative misses. Yeah.
Yeah. Like you get
That shouldn't
way
be
too
a
many
component.
attempts. Too many attempts.
Triple jump should not be a thing.
A little
We're testing
redundant.
how good you are at breaking up your
Rebound.
jumps into 3.
I mean, it's how you could jump the furthest that way.
Long jump, yes. High jump, yes. Triple jump, dumb.
It's called long, extra long.
I'm a
jump.
school record holder in the 4-man triple jump relay.
Yeah.
All right.
Hey.
And that will go down in infamy because there is no such event
I'm
anymore.
calling your school. Just gotta set
However,
it up again.
it should never have existed in the first place.
I agree that the triple jump relay is no good.
That's a relay I cannot get behind.
It's a relay meet.
You will not.
We
get,
have our conference relay meet every year, and it's awesome.
You will get no arguments from me.
It's goofy
that We
games.
should see that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
We know
Might as
that.
well have
We
water in your
embrace it.
mouth.
4 by mile,
We're not talking.
distance medley, sprint medley, triple jump relay, hurdle relay. It's all relays, but it shouldn't exist as an event.
I've got a pole vault thing. So I think that it's kind of like a bone to pick with the entire thing. You have 10-minute gaps between races. Don't do it between them. It's an isolated event. Give it its time, but do it during the filler moments. No split screen should ever happen during the Olympics because you're saying that this event is less important than another one. You have all that filler time where they're just showing, stock footage of a thing or you don't need to do that.
Right.
Have your event during the exclusive time.
I'm going to make people mad. Maybe not in the Hyrox space, but in the runner space. 10K. Time to get rid of it.
Come on.
Add cross country. Get
What
rid
are
of
you
10K. Add
talking
cross
about?
country.
That was the
cross
most
country.
exciting race.
10K was
Doesn't
sick,
matter.
dude.
10K is the 5K, but slightly longer and slightly slower. That's it. Keep the 5K. Add cross country. Cross country used to be paired to track meets back in the day.
I'm looking forward to the marathon less than everything on the track, and then it would just be
Yes.
a kind of a derivative of the marathon, like an outdoor race. Like I like the track.
No,
Like,
let's keep the 10K. Get rid of race walking.
Well, race walking's got to be gone anyway.
you shut your mouths. How dare you?
They're walking.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah, 10 miles an hour. Yeah.
BK claims it to be a super dirty sport. I love
It
that.
is.
I love that for race walking.
Yeah.
I just don't. I
I
mean,
love it.
it's a nonsensical sport. It really is.
So to that 5K, pole vault, Mondo is impressive. That's fun. But cutting away from that 5K, I was actually, and you mentioned it, I think alluding to the men's 10K, BK, earlier you were talking about, like, I was kind of disappointed in this women's field in the 5K that they just let Faith Kipyegon dictate the entire thing when she is the absolute fastest. Maybe not anymore. Like, I was actually surprised she got out kicked, but they just kind of like let her do whatever she wanted the entire race. And they did that last year, I think, at Worlds. And it was just like, okay, we'll wait to see who the fast over 200 is. It's the mile record holder.
The
only
1500
set a
world
world
record
record.
moves up.
Yeah.
Let's let her chill.
But there's so many good athletes in it that I think everybody thinks they have the best shot, and nobody wants to make it hurt worse than it
Everyone's
should.
been working on their kick. Everyone's the fastest person in their training group. Everyone feels like I can close.
And it was disappointing. So when they pulled away to the pole vault, they would come back and nothing would happen. I'm like, come on, somebody do something. And it wasn't
the
until
10K was atypical. It was spectacular.
yes, exactly. The dudes are out here. They're not afraid.
But part of the problem is that people double 5K, 10K, and they split their efforts between the two. So if you have just one of those in cross country, now you're going to see some racing.
I think the order that happens, because you have the women's 10K happening after the 5K, but you already had the men's 10K and then the 5K later. That's affecting the strategy because of the energy that it takes to run that. You have one single 10K to run, and then you have rounds to survive for the 5K. That's a different approach if you're one of the studs.
That's why I was hoping Safan Hassan would be like, I need to make this honest. I need to go. It's like, oh, but she has the 10K and the marathon.
Yeah.
So she basically was a non-factor in the entire race and finished third. She was just like in 10th, and then in 9th, and then in 6th, and then in 4th.
And then Sagai just gave up, and it's like, well, we know who's going to get third now.
She got pulled.
Yep.
That was crazy.
That was weird.
Yeah.
How
I don't know how Kipyegon gets the medal back. Like they saw she linked her and pulled. That is not a track move ever. That is an automatic disqualification at every level.
Yeah.
People are saying that was a terrible DQ to start with. And it wasn't.
I don't think so.
That is the most blatant thing you can do on a home stretch leading the race is hook. Like you can't hook someone. You just know
grab
that.
them.
Now,
Yeah.
I think they should have just both been allowed to continue and do their thing. They hurt each other.
Yeah.
So
I think
let's just leave
Sagai
it.
had no spatial awareness there. That was not the time to move
That's the
over.
time for an elbow.
Yeah, elbow, not a lock.
Should grab
Or a
her.
link. Yeah.
I don't see why that's even a good move to grab someone.
No.
That was just petty. Like, she
Yeah.
deserved a DQ. I don't like DQing out of the world championship heat, but I am also a proponent that you can officiate differently at different moments.
Do you
Yeah,
guys think
so-
Faith is washed?
Chibet.
I mean, she wasn't a few months ago.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
She-
I
two
was
straight Olympic
I was
golds.
shocked, and maybe it did have to do with she did a little bit more of the leading. She did have that a couple of jostles, but I mean, Beatrice Chibet is unreal. She's beautiful to watch run, can really open it up, but
Jagan's stride and like body tone didn't look the same. I
No.
wonder if she's been injured.
Did you see Beatrice Chibet during her 10K record when she was the first woman to go sub 29?
Mhm.
All that she does, I forget, was it with Sagai in that race? All she did was just look at the person in front of her's back and just, I'm sticking on it. And she did the same exact thing in the
Mhm.
5K. You never see her, like her eye level is just right on the person in
I think it
front
was
of her
Gide,
back.
right?
Yeah, or Gide, you're right. Yeah. But it was impressive to see.
is this trouble for Faith in the 15?
Yeah.
We
The
worried?
15 is a crapshoot now.
Yep.
That's another one where the field has closed the gap.
Ellie made the right move.
Just saying
100%.
that, Rich, I wasn't given a spoiler on that. I was going to say that Ellie has the strength from the 5K that now that's probably going to pay off for her 1500 rounds. I wasn't given results.
Spoiling ass.
No.
Yeah,
Ain't trying
she
to
made
hear
the
that.
right move. If you can close, plus with the strength she has,
Yeah.
you got to go for it.
And just what you saw happen to Elise Cranny, right? Like the 5K, and they didn't even. And that was pretty tactical. Like you can be just like out of the 5K with these athletes in the field.
There's kicking,
Oh,
and
yeah.
then there's what they do.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
It's not
All
the
right.
same.
We-
The
we gonna-
1500 is too fast of a race to have a blazing finish. It's a strength-based finish, which same thing with the 800. It's not this nasty speed competition at the end. It's a staying power competition. 5K can become just a flat out who can run the fastest last 400, but
Yeah.
1500 is not going to be that.
Mm-hmm.
They're too
Yeah.
fast.
You're closing in 52 or 57 on the men and women's side. It's like not all. It's very impressive, but
It's the same as they're going to close in
the
the 5K.
We'll probably see some fast
Exactly.
rounds too. Like the semis, I'd imagine, because only two go. Wait, how many to go through in the 15 then? From
probably
semis?
5. I
So
imagine
maybe
that-
it'll be a little more tactical. Yeah, never mind.
yeah, probably 3 rounds. Yeah. Okay. Are we going to talk about the 100?
Yeah.
What do you
You
think
got
about that,
takes?
Bracken? You must have been pissed seeing the
Which one?
result.
Which 100?
Men's,
No, I don't wish bad
Starters.
upon anyone.
but you're not a
I
Noah
I just
fan.
rolled my eyes like, oh, we're just going to have him crank to 11 for the next 4 years.
Look, man, he's earned it. He's like
I-
a legit.
see,
He's
that's
a
the
legit
take-
champion.
That's the take I don't agree with. He's earned the result. No one earns the right to be a fool, and we just have to deal with it.
He backed it up.
Yeah.
That's not backing it up. Those are two different columns.
I don't know. The things
He's a stud.
things he says, I don't find to be that annoying. It's more just like the antics.
I
Yeah.
don't like I feel
You don't
sorry.
earn the right for antics. You earn the right to be the best in the world, and he has.
I don't like when he was doing his post-race interviews, like, oh, these guys came to Ram, but I feel sorry for them later. It's like just some of the comments. I'm like, you're just trying to put on this act.
Right.
Like,
That's bad trash.
you could have
trash
just
talk.
ended it at, I definitely didn't take these guys seriously enough. I've got to step on my game. But just
You can see him thinking about what he was supposed to say during interviews. He's
totally.
like, now what was he looks like a bad actor. I think that's probably what's most offensive
Yeah.
to me. He just looks like a bad actor. And the other people come off and they either have their shtick or they're there themselves, but they're just like, that's truly their thing. And he's playing a role and he's not good at it. I love watching him run. I would choose his stride over anyone's, I think. I love how he runs. But
Power.
and he proved it. He had a terrible start and still was the best. And he shouldn't be based off his 200, 400 prowess. Like he's the best sprinter in the world. And I don't think it's that close, honestly.
Mhm.
It's the antics. It's the
I-
act. It's the act. He's
The
a bad
act.
actor.
Bad actor for sure.
I give him credit for backing it up though. Like for as loud as he was,
He's a great competitor.
got
Great
gold.
champion.
He's lost.
Yeah.
They said he's lost 2 pro races since he became pro.
200s.
200s. Oh, okay.
Yeah, he
Not-
gets beaten 100. Louis Hinchcliffe gave him work.
That's they're in prelims, but regardless, yeah. He's
He's
gonna.
the real deal.
What do you? How do you think the 200 is gonna go?
He's gonna kill everybody.
You think he's world record or?
No,
Oh,
I don't think the
I
track
don't
is
think
fast
so.
enough.
I think the track's plenty fast enough. I
Track
don't
seems
think
fast.
he
It's
is.
just
Yeah.
that 200 is just insane. I mean, how bad Bolt would have beat him? Like if Bolt was in that field, it would have been an absolute
0.2
blowout.
seconds.
Yeah.
That was the fastest 2 through 8 ever.
Ever.
And Bolt would have been 2 strides clear.
Yeah, that's
just-
insane.
So that how much do you think that slow delay where they made that warm up song or whatever in the background?
It was cool.
But how much
But-
do you think that affected things? Like you're standing there
None.
3-4 minutes, just like, come on, let's go. Like I couldn't believe what was happening. Apparently
So
there
dumb.
was the protester who ran on, but it sounded like they were just waiting for the music to end.
My take is that they switched over to that. They had a backup plan for protesters.
Hmm.
And they switched to it. But it was cool. I thought it was an awesome buildup. It was like a very European. It would have been cool if the athletes knew what was going to happen. But
Yeah.
it felt like the start of a fight scene in a movie. It was
Yeah.
awesome.
And I liked, or I think it was very interesting. Noah Lyles won by 0.005 seconds, so 5/1000ths of a second against Thompson from Jamaica. Fred Curley delivered as well.
Yeah, I thought Fred was going to win.
Yeah, Fred's impressive. He delivered.
He got out.
Yep. And it's crazy coming from a 400, dropping down to 100 late career. It's like that strength seems to pay off again. But if the time that it takes sound to travel with those speakers behind you, you know how if it was a regular track meet where you just have a guy with the start gun on the side, it's 0.008 seconds, but everybody has the speaker behind them, so they get the time at the same exact thing. In theory, the time that it took sound to travel would have been the difference between him winning gold and silver right there. But because they have the start blocks with the speaker, that made the difference.
Huh. Fairness.
Yeah. So everybody getting the same exact sound time because the speaker was there versus 50 feet to the left of them, for instance, that truly decided the gold.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I have a complaint.
Nice.
And it's going to be a spoiler alert and a genitalia conversation. So
We're-
tune out if you're easily offended.
We're-
We need better penis management out
With
of
the
these
tights?
athletes.
Yep.
You
Although-
have to wear something under it for starters. You just have. I don't even know how they race without something under it.
I know.
With how loose they make compression now, they don't go extreme compression because it's a little restricting. With the amount of elasticity in the crotch region, you got to have some penis management. And then on top of that, you had
Hold on, guy.
who took third or second? Who took third?
In what?
The men's 100?
Fred.
Fred Curley.
Fred had his flipped upwards at the start line. He's standing there. Oh, my camera saw that and got excited. Like,
Sounds like you
we've
did too.
all worn compression shorts and owned a penis our entire life. You
true.
notice that kind of thing. How at the Olympic stage, everyone in our family was transfixed by this. It's very, very weird with your daughters asking questions about like, why is that happening? What's going on? It's just the strangest thing. You're at the Olympic level. Take some time and look in the mirror before you get out there with cameras in 4K and do some penis management.
I'm trying to think of a way to be devil's advocate here, and I got nothing.
No, I was like, I know how I
Manage
There's
that
no
rearrange
benefit to it. There's no advantage.
Who knows? The best athletes in the world. What do you think it's gonna? Do you think he would have got second? That
Swing
penis was
low,
managed
sweet
better?
chariot. I don't know. I don't know what's going on, but it's
You're personally offended.
I'm not offended. I'm
You're
confused.
taken aback.
I'm taken aback. I'm confused. Why would you want more movement? Or like right before, let's say you're just you're just at the bar throwing out the vibe, right? Like I want everyone to know pre-race standing at the start line, warm up complete. That's not even the best show that's the worst show you're going to put on in your life.
It's alpha shit.
I just don't get it.
blood flow's going everywhere else.
Everywhere else.
That's a good point.
And if you're wasting time fluffing before an Olympic final, then you're wasting time on your performance. I don't get it.
Hey,
Penis rant.
X-rated Olympics.
all right. Let's manage these
All right.
penises better. So on the
All right.
women's end,
Oh,
women's 100.
I have one
This
bone to
is-
pick.
Okay.
Manu Duplantis setting world records. So he's gaming the system just like the repechage round.
Oh yeah.
He gets $100,000 every single time that he sets a world record. That's why he's doing it 1 centimeter at a time. He could have gone like 6'4". He's just waiting 1 centimeter at a time for the next. It's smart, but it's stupid that it happens. Like I would love to see how high he could go if they're like
Who gives him 100,000?
I think it's just IAF,
World Athletics or
World
whatever.
Athletics, whatever. That's just the standard bonus that they give for breaking a world
Nice.
record.
Plus, I'm sure his Puma contract
Oh,
does
yeah.
something.
Do you think Sweden pays him? Like,
Oh, yeah.
why is he?
Oh, surely.
Like that's why he is a Swedish athlete. Like,
They
why
probably
would
have
he
better
be
training resources. Like if you think of
in the United
the Amer-
States.
well, just look at like the American circuit. They have the Diamond League, and that's a lot more prestigious in Europe. Like they have a traveling track, league basically over there. Versus it's not too prominent in the U.S. I bet that he definitely gets some kickback from them, and
And he's this
that's why he's
rock
doing
star
it.
over there.
Yeah,
He's
Does he
very
live-
European
does he live there?
as well.
he grew up in
He's
Louisiana.
Louisiana. He's
Yeah.
Creole.
His mom's Swedish, but still,
Does he live there?
I don't know.
As far as I know.
He might not.
Probably.
And the decathlete too is from Pittsburgh. Is from competes for Puerto Rico. There's a bunch of those where it's like, it's an American. We're taking that win.
I get why people get frustrated when someone gives up citizenship to go someplace with no athletes so they can make a team. Mondo's winning no matter what he does. He could pick his nation. He could stay here. Like opportunity isn't the thing. So I don't.
So
mind
Sweden
that.
must be breaking
don't
him off
deserve him.
something, right?
He's oh yeah.
They're probably just like, yeah, come on over. You'll give you a government job, like the old wasn't that what Russia was doing back in the day?
I think a lot of these just flat out pay you to do.
Yeah, I
your
don't think
job.
there's a government job.
Well, I guess the government's paying you.
Yeah.
So like if your
Yeah.
government job is being a pole vaulter.
Yes.
So Manu Duplantis winning in like 6.25 meters versus 5.95 per second. That's probably like a 3% win. Could you imagine another event where an athlete wins by 3% over the world's best? Like he's so much better than the rest of the field,
He's
and
an
it's
ass
just
whooping.
ridiculous.
Val Allman kind of gave an ass whooping out too.
Yeah. That's a good comparison. But it's field. You don't see that in track. Even Usain Bolt winning, it's like, what was he? 1% faster than the field? Like
There has to be a technical component to get a gap that big.
Yeah.
Or just pole vault where everyone's not that fast and Mondo's just fast.
Mhm.
That's the difference.
Running 23 miles an hour with the pole.
Give Kenny a pole vault, a pole, and see what he does. Let him practice for a little bit. He'll get
He'd
up over
bend
that
it.
thing. Sure would.
Yeah.
Where's Wisconsin strong?
Mhm.
All right. What's your new event, Rich?
Let's talk about the women. Julian Alfred, she might be one of the best sprinters of all time when it's said and done. She's like 22. She was so nasty at Texas, and she was just you could almost see it in Sha'Carri's eyes. Like she didn't look the same. And Julian Alfred just came out and beat that ass.
You knew it was over after the semifinals.
After semi, I was like, oh my God,
Like,
what are you even
not
gonna do?
happening.
Yeah. Yeah, and Sha'Carri just didn't seem like she was as locked in as she has. Where Noah, I mean, this in his first Olympics, he didn't perform to the best of his ability. I mean, Sha'Carri got second, but in a field that wasn't as strong as
No
fields
Jamaicans.
past.
Yeah.
Almost no Jamaicans.
She had a worse start than Noah almost.
Oh yeah. But I thought Noah looked very nervous. Like he came out jumping and everything, and then like just zooming in on him while he was like getting ready. It was like, oh, this guy has a little bit of nervousness in his eyes right now.
Sha'Carri almost seemed passive. She's
like she was just there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was like happy to be there. Like didn't really seem like
It's her first Olympics.
It's her first Olympics, exactly. And so I said Noah did not step up in his, and Sha'Carri getting second.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that energy at the start line and in the staging area. It just has to be incomparable.
You know that Anas, he was at the 100-meter men's finals.
Was he?
Yeah.
Nice.
Showed a
That's awesome.
video. He was in like the coaches section or the agent section, whatever. But
Oh, that's
pretty cool.
That was awesome.
Yeah. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think Sha'Carri, I mean, she had so much pressure. Every single thing that's talked about on the women's side is either her or Sydney McLaughlin, and a silver medal in the most prestigious, arguably, event in track and field, 100-meter, first time with all the controversy in the past behind her. Like she delivered. It sucks. Alfred was just the better athlete that day.
Yeah. Yeah. But she
And
might
she's
be
about as classy and defeated as you can possibly be. Just every
Yeah.
time I've watched her in the last like 9 months, I've liked her more.
I'm looking forward to Sprint 2, like the recap, because apparently that's coming out after, and there's going to be some stuff with the Jamaican women not reaching the start line. That's going to be very interesting to see.
Who do you guys like in that? When's that 200 final for women? Is that today? Tomorrow?
That might be today, like
Maybe
in
right now?
20 minutes type of deal.
Do you
But
think Gabby Thomas has anything for Julian Alfred?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
Gabby's winning gold.
I wouldn't say it like that, dude.
I'm very confident Gabby's winning gold.
Depends on the odds, but Julian Alfred is no joke.
200-meter final,
She's-
1:40 today p.m. So
She's
we've
a
got
freak
an
and
hour.
she's dialed, but Gabby is like,
She looks great.
she has changed everything about herself. It looks like she's just
She
a
looks
different
different.
athlete.
Yeah, she
Yeah,
really does.
physically different, mentally different. She doesn't tie up anymore.
Built
She's different.
Built different.
Don't forget, Gabby's got that 400 background. So running rounds, 200. Like she was running 400 earlier in this offseason, I thought.
We think she could do an
Shikari,
800.
speaking of running longer, Shikari runs like a 60-meter runner.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she
Like
can't
she
even
doesn't
hold
have
it for
any
two.
ability to jog or stride out.
Nope.
She just runs like a 60-meter runner.
Fast.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Yeah, that's which is weird. She's not great at start. She has like a weird strength of like 80 meters or so, where she's
Yeah.
awesome. But longer than that, not good.
If she
like
nails a
Coleman.
start, if she gets to that point,
It's
like
Coleman
she'll
can start.
she'll be borderline untouchable in the 100.
But she
Totally.
doesn't nail start. Even in the Olympic trials, she came
Right.
back. At the Olympics, she
But
had
she's young.
by far the worst start.
And when she had a good start at Worlds last year
Yeah.
and won.
Yep.
But yeah,
I'm curious what her reaction time was. But some of
that
the
Coleman
okay,
start.
okay. Another thing that I hate. This happened during one of the trial or the prelim rounds. 0.1 as a reaction time counts as a DQ. I hate that.
it's so dumb.
That's you reacted. Anything less than 0 should be a DQ, but so what if you time the gun? You reacted or
You
you
get-
started within the legal parameters of
Yeah.
sound traveling.
And it's like a strategy almost. Like how much risk tolerance are you going to have to try to time it?
I read a paper on it originally when the first drama came out with it, and this is years ago now, but I remember there being some sort of, it's one of those classic projects where someone submitted their findings and very quickly other people were like, well, there's other versions of that you could find. Like there are other numbers we could come up with, but it was like a clean number and they just took it and went with it. And that was that.
Mhm.
And they've proved
It could
that
be like
some people have
0.08.
beaten that before. And so like it's not beyond a reproach.
So they just made a nice round number because it sounds nice.
Not necessarily. That's a little reductionist of what I'm saying, and I'm not
Okay.
saying you are, but like that's what some
Yeah.
people's argument is. Oh, they just chose but it's not the end all be all study that led to that. It was kind of like a rushed project.
But like I mentioned earlier, the distance at which sound travels from that speaker to the athlete's ear, where everyone has the same exact starting plane, is 0.008, so 8 thousandths of a second. And then no one's gonna have a pure 0 reaction time. But if you want to risk a DQ, whatever. As long as your reaction time is better than 0.008 seconds, it should be okay.
I agree. That's the only sport I know of that they don't allow you to try to time things. Like every other sport allows it.
Yeah. And like you're
So-
watching it, and when it doesn't look like a false start, you're like, what?
Yeah.
It seems like they were within the confines of the rules. Technically,
It's
not, but-
complicating a very simple sport.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So Sha'Carri Richardson had a 0.221 reaction time. Only one other athlete had worse than 0.16 in her heat. So she lost 0.06 right off the bat. And yeah, it wasn't enough there was a 0.08 difference between her and Julian Alford. Julian she was going to win anyway from what it looked like, but still, that was a bad start.
My proposal would be that force plate in the blocks is deactivated at 0.008. As long as
The
you're
legal limit.
Greater than that, you took a risk.
yeah.
Who cares? Yeah.
Right.
And if like Fred Curley, he had a 0.108, and Akani Simbine from South Africa, who's got 4th or 5th at everything. I feel so bad for that guy. He had a reaction time 0.04 less than him, and he lost by 0.01. So basically that 0.04 of a second different in reaction time where Fred did a better job got him the bronze over the 4th place.
Thought Fred was going to take it, man. He got
I
out.
know.
Kenny was out pretty well. And
Yep.
then I can't believe he faded. I mean, he didn't fade.
He
hell
faded, but he
long.
ran like 9.88.
I know. Yeah. Right. He faded to 7.
When they showed the
somehow.
times, I was like, oh man, did he fade? I'm like, no.
Wait,
He ran the
sub
fastest, like
9.9?
7th place ever.
Yeah.
Crushed. So I was talking to some buddies that not locked into Olympics like your boy is, just friends from home. And a buddy was asking, like, one with Katie Ledecky, who the dominance that she has in that sport is
She's
just,
like Mondo.
Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
800 up. 400, she didn't win.
Right. But
And yeah, like that 1500.
But that's like a 5K or dropping down to the 15. It's not a guarantee.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, imagine someone having the top 25K running times of all time. We would be
That's
like,
what
this
Mondo
person is
basically does in-
unbelievable.
yeah.
Pole vault sucks.
I know.
So he was asking, he was like, why is it 1500 and not just like 1600? And I was like, yeah, I guess if I think of it from like the metric system, it's like a kilometer and a half. And I was like, that's probably why it's 1500 on the track as well. And it never dawned on me. And then I was like, why are tracks not 500 meters?
Yeah.
What happened with the 400? Why is it like that? It should just be a 500,
You'd
Like-
think.
a kilometer race, and then a 1500 makes way more sense.
Yeah.
What happened with 400?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's 100 was going to be the base because everything metric system is base 100. And now you just double it. So you've got 200. You double it, you get 400, double it, you get 800.
Then
And
it
then
should
they
be the
just-
1600.
And it should
They
be
just went,
1600.
which is
Then they
so
went
close to the
kilometer and a
mile.
half.
They had their opportunity. And then 5K, that's a nice 5,000 meters, just 10K. It's the nice logical thing. That's twice as long as a 5K. That's
You
the
could do
one
all these
stupid.
with a 500 meter track.
Yeah.
You still have 100 with a 500 meter track.
All right. I'm trying to
Realistically, you should have the 500, the 250.
Yes. If you just want to do straightaways, yeah. But if
Yeah.
you wanted to start with 100, like Jack's saying, you can still do 100.
Yeah.
It'll just it'll just still be a straightaway.
So 1896 Olympics, how big? And it wasn't a like nice uniform 100 on this straightaway, 100 on this. Like it was like a very long oval. How long do you think that course was?
the long
Or
oval.
it wasn't a 400-meter lap. How long do you think the lap was?
280.
I'm going 500.
Something short.
330.
330. That must have just been like, hey, we're building the track here.
Yeah, here's
How much
our
space
space.
do we have?
Yeah, exactly. Have you seen some of those times? Like obviously technology and everything is different, but it's wild to see some of those winning times during the 12-2 for the men's 100.
We
I
went
know
there
that
in
they-
college one day and saw what events could we have won at the Olympics, how late into history.
All right.
Where
Oh,
did it
yeah.
start? That was like the
It's like the mile, I think we would have won through like the 20s or something
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that.
Audrey would have won gold in the backstroke through like the 1940s for the women.
wow.
Like, yeah. But they
Okay,
were
so let's
they were swimming in like dresses and stuff back then. Yeah.
get into that. I think we should get rid of like half the swim strokes.
Yeah. Hold on.
We covered this. We talked about how
Yeah.
we don't need to bash on swimming anymore. But I agree. Dumb.
Yeah, I want to pull up that thing just to see. All right, so 12-2 in the 100. Could you have beat that? My PR is 12-3. So
I think you could have trained down to, I think
I
11.9
agree.
could have
I
run.
ran it one time. Okay, 56-2. Yep. On that goofy track though, that's like
Not a Hyrox athlete, but
yeah. Not. I'm talking to my
Not me.
211 800. Yep.
Got it.
433.2 for the 1500. Yep.
Got it.
258.50 marathon. And it was only a 24.8 mile. It wasn't
we
a
could have
full
won
marathon.
100 through marathon in this Olympics.
Yeah.
We would have had statues on the Parthenon
Goats.
for us.
Yep. They would have been talking about us. Mike Tirico introducing
our
the
own
great
name.
the great race brand crew, sweeping the podium.
Have an event named after us.
What kind of sandals is that guy wearing?
Yeah.
Like, let me tell you, I made these myself.
High jump 181, so that's like 510.
Yeah.
No
Yep.
mat though, right?
Doesn't
It's
matter.
like jumping over a thing.
I'll
and
do
landing on
that.
Sand.
Whatever. I gotta go. Yeah, 635 for
Imagine
the
that.
long.
Just jump as high as you can and land on the ground.
It was like
All
a pile of sawdust.
Yeah.
All right, so the long jump was 20 feet 8 inches. That's like
right around
right
what
on
I
the,
jumped.
I was like just
the
under.
triple?
I was
For
like
the-
just under 6 meters when I did it.
I think I was 20'6",
You could have trained.
20'9", maybe. I'm right
Yeah.
around that. Yeah.
Yeah. Pole vault was 10.5 feet. Triple jump, Bracken, as the record holder, you should know
39.9.
this. 13.71. So that's like 42 feet or so.
Oh, you're
So that's
smoked.
43.
I would have won the women's.
Yeah. Discus throw 29 meters. So we're looking at like 95 feet. Oh, yeah. We're winning that
I
one.
don't know.
Shot put 11.2 meters. Yeah. That's like 35 feet. That's half what they're throwing.
I don't know
feel
if
like
we'd win disc.
I don't know either. I have no reference.
Just
I don't
even
think
trying
I've
to
ever
make it
thrown
spin's not easy.
No,
Yeah.
no, with no technique.
Yeah.
I want to
They may be
say,
throwing
I thought I threw like 85 or 88 or something.
Okay. Yeah. Regardless, we could have been the goats. They would have just had race brain plaques, everything commemorating us if we took our modern
Statue of
technology.
Maud.
Yeah. A mod statue. Yeah.
I went to the Louvre while in Paris, and
yeah?
they had a history of the Olympics exhibit when I was there, and I was like, "This is
Okay.
amazing." So it was cool seeing like all the old stuff, and that could have been us. We could have been featured in
Although-
the Louvre.
You talk penis management systems. Would we have been naked during this?
Yeah, now we're reverting.
1896. I think they had. They're looking like they're wearing clothes right here. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Then I'm in.
I just looked up my. Okay, discus. I threw 25.4 meters back in high school. The one time I did it, so 29 won gold. So I wouldn't have got it.
And what's
bit
the
of
weight
practice.
difference?
I don't know. I'm sure high school was less than that, and it probably like chipped your hands and stuff because it was pre-technology. Yeah, that's. I think that's a fun exercise.
All right, I think we did.
Most humorous thing I saw: the attempt before Mondo went for his world record. He ripped his thumb,
Yeah.
and at the Olympics with a world record and at least $250,000 on the line, he had his buddy next to him try to like put a weird tape band-aid
Without
on.
gloves, just hey, I found this
The
in
guy
my
like
bag.
did it, and there's like a tail hanging off it. He's like, "This good?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
ready."
I got it. Don't worry.
You have put so many millions of dollars into your training over the years, and we're going to rely on this your friend next to you to give you the grip needed to grip the pole here.
It worked.
All right, real quick. We've got 11 minutes until the men's 15K starts. What's going to happen? Who wins? Then we'll sign off.
I'm not watching the 15K.
1500
Or 1500 men's.
The old nine
Pedantic hour.
miler, 9.3 miler.
Yeah, the OCR
You want
distance.
cross country?
Yeah, it's the OCR
15.
distance. 15K.
I want mountain running.
Yard looked good in that semi. I mean, Kerr looked really good. Jakob's gonna have to go early.
I think he's gonna. He was so cocky in
800 out?
round one. That was dumb.
Well, that's who he is.
I know, but that was like
He's kind of a
disrespectfully
douche.
slow.
He's
Yeah.
kind of a douche. But like we said, he doesn't have to be in it because he's the best.
Mhm.
800 meters out, he's gonna have to go
I think he's taking the lead right away.
and press him from the
Somewhere
jump.
between 6, right around 6 plus or minus. And his shtick is like him. I give him leniency because he's
That's
just
him. He's not putting a character.
douche. Yeah.
Also, I give anyone leniency who is doing their interviews in a second language.
Mm.
I know there is absolutely no way, however good I got at another language, that my exact
Your tone.
intonation and verbiage and everything would go through as intended.
Yeah.
It just hits slightly different. And Europeans speak a little bit more matter-of-factly about certain things.
Mm.
And half of that's language and half of that's just culture. So I give anyone of a different culture a little bit of a pass on interviews.
But he acts
Valid
like a
point.
douche when he races. It's not just what he's saying.
I
He
mean,
acts like a
That's what-
douche.
That was Jack's point, where he's just
If-
like,
I think
I'm
if
gonna
you-
walk first,
yeah.
and then I'll just.
But I think
meander my way up.
if you just interview someone seconds, like Lewis Johnson pulls him to the side right after finishing a race, and he just took down his biggest. Of course, he's gonna be talking trash.
I like it.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's totally fine right there. We need more
If
of
you
that.
can-
Being honest.
You can spice up a prelim distance race, all the more power to you. If you can get the crowd to cheer, great.
Who's the top American
No one's cheering for a
Hawker.
Pokemon card.
I think Hawker's taking bronze.
over the Goose? Hawker ran
Over
a
the
really.
Goose. Goose
he ran-
didn't look good during round one. I know semifinals
he
was
just-
different.
he
He
just,
ran
like-
smarter.
he
If
got
it's
that-
1
got
in
it over.
326, I think he takes third. If it's
Goose.
one between 327 and 330, I think Hawker takes third.
What about our man Hobbs?
He's been good.
I
wanna
don't know
see
what
him
his
stick his nose
ceiling
in
is
it.
yet.
Oh yeah, so he'll. I hope he puts his nose in it the way that he typically does.
Yeah.
He does that thing with Grant Fisher. I'm in third, or anybody else
Yep.
goes. I'm in
That's
third.
that's a
So
great
I
point.
hope he does that, but it's gonna be crowded up there.
He could
Mhm.
Clayton Murphy this thing where like he's the one no one's really thinking about, and he just runs
Bronze.
his way
Yeah.
right up to a bronze or a silver.
I like him tactically. He's a really solid racer.
Gutsy.
Now he's
for
got a
how young he
143
is.
in him.
Yeah, and he doesn't have a 143 in him this week. He's only got 1500s.
Still would have gone in the 8.
Yeah. All right. So are you picking Jakob or Kerr?
My heart says Jakob. My brain says Kerr's on one. Kerr is on one.
I think I don't know. I kind of agree with BK on this. I want Yaka, but I'm not sure. I don't think I'd bet on it.
I think Jakob's doing the double 5K and 1500.
All right.
Cheptegei and Kip Limo both dropped out of the 5K earlier today. They went
Really?
through. Yep. That opened the spot.
I think he wins. If you line everyone in the history of the world up in a 5K, he might win in a championship race.
Just
I
that
don't think the
strength.
1500 is even his best race.
I mean, he's won the world championships at the 5K the past 2 years, right? After getting
Yeah.
beat in 15, so
Yeah.
a kilometer and a half.
And he wins those effortlessly.
He's so strong.
This thing's got to go sub 328, I'd say. if
His
Jakob's
15
gonna win
is on a
this.
razor's edge to win them now at championships. His 5K, he plays around during. He moves up when he wants, and he separates at will.
Mhm.
I think he could be the 5K, 10K double easier than he could be a 1500 anything else double.
Well, that'll be fun.
Yeah.
It'll happen
We'll see.
eventually. All right. We did it.
Let's go watch him track.
Let's
Yep.
go.
That's what I'm doing.
Talk to you soon.
See you guys.